Thank you. Madam Forlady, if you'll stand for me. Have you reached a verdict?
Yes, sir, we have.
Is it unanimous?
Yes, sir, it is.
All right, if you will pass it up to the clerk, who will pass it to me. And you may be seated. The defendant will rise. Madam Clerk, you may publish the verdict, starting with the back, not with the.
Oh, here we go, y'all.
Starting with the back, flipping them over one by one. State of South Carolina versus.
Docket number 2022 GS 15-00592, the State of South Carolina, County of Colleton, in the Court of General Sessions in the term of 2022, July, the State versus Richard Alexander Murdoch, defendant, indictment for murder, SC Code 16-3-0010, CDR Code 0116. Okay. Guilty verdict, signed by the forelady, 3/2/23. Docket number 2022 GS 15-00593, the State of South Carolina, County of Colleton, in the Court of General Sessions, the July term of 2022. The State versus Richard Alexander Murdoch, defendant, indictment for murder, SC Code 16-3-0010, CDR Code 0116, verdict guilty, signed by the forelady, date 3/2/23. Docket number 2022 GS 15-00595, the State of South Carolina, County of Colleton, Court of General Sessions, July term 2022. The State versus Richard Alexander Murdoch, defendant, indictment for possession of a weapon during the commission of a violent crime, SC Code -16-23-0490, CDR Code 0549, verdict guilty, signed by the foreperson of the jury, date 3/2/23. Docket number 2022 GS 15-00594, the State of South Carolina, County of Colleton, Court of General Sessions, July term 2022. The State versus Richard Alexander Murdoch, defendant, indictment for possession of a weapon during the commission of a violent crime, SC Code 16-23-0490, CDR Code 0549, verdict guilty, signed by the foreperson of the jury, 3/2/23.
Thank you. Madam Forelady and members of the jury, if that is a verdict of each and every juror, please let it be known by raising your right hands. All right, thank you. Any individual polling requested? Madam Clerk, you'll need to individually poll the jury according to their juror numbers.
Number 193. Was this your verdict?
Yes, sir.
Is it still your verdict?
Yes.
Juror 254, is this your verdict?
Yes.
Is it still your verdict?
Yes.
Juror 326, was this your verdict?
Yes.
Is it still your verdict?
Yes.
Juror 530, was this your verdict?
Yes.
Is this your verdict?
Yes.
Juror 544,
Yes.
was this your verdict?
Yes.
Is it still your verdict?
Yes.
Juror 572, was this your verdict?
Yes.
Is it still your verdict?
Yes.
Juror 578, was this your verdict?
Yes.
Is it still your verdict?
Yes.
Juror 589, was this your verdict? Is it still your verdict?
Yes.
Juror 630, was this your verdict?
Yes.
Is it still your verdict?
Yes.
Juror 729, was this your verdict?
Yes.
Is it still your verdict?
Yes.
Juror 826, was this your verdict?
Yes.
Is it still your verdict?
Yes.
Juror 864, was this your verdict?
Yes.
Is it still your verdict?
Yes.
Your Honor, the jury has been polled.
Thank you. The jury has been polled and the verdict is a unanimous verdict. If you will bring the alternate juror out and have her have a seat in the audience, please. You can stand there or you can sit back there, whatever you prefer. Okay. Are there any post-trial motions?
From the state, Your Honor.
We would just renew our previously argued motions for directed verdict, and at this, on the grounds, on those grounds, we would make a motion for a mistrial and to set aside the verdict.
By the state, response.
Your Honor, based on our previous arguments, we would submit that the case properly went to the jury and the verdict is proper, and would rely on those arguments.
We've been here now 28 days, first few days of jury selection and the remainder receiving testimony, an overwhelming amount of testimony and evidence that was presented to the jury for the jury's consideration. As I indicated to the jury during the jury charge or the charge on the law, that this was a matter solely for the jury to determine. The court found at the end of the state's case that there's sufficient evidence to find the defendant guilty if the evidence was believed by the jury. Likewise, at the end of the defense's case, when the motion was renewed, the court found that the evidence was sufficient for the jury to find the defendant guilty. The jury has now considered the evidence for a significant period of time, and the evidence of guilt is overwhelming, and I deny the motion. Mr. Murdaugh, you now having been found guilty of 2 counts of murder involving your wife and your son, 2 counts of possession of a weapon during the commission of a violent crime, the burden now comes upon the court to impose a sentence. Given the lateness of the hour and the victim's rights that must be taken into consideration and complied with under the Victim's Bill of Rights, and consider what I would anticipate to be a number of people who might have something to say regarding sentencing, we will defer sentencing to a later date. Of course, the minimum sentence for murder is 30 years. The maximum sentence is life imprisonment as to each count. And on the weapons charge, the sentence is up to 5 years or 5 years, which has to be concurrent if a life sentence is imposed. When would you all like to reconvene for sentencing? I would like to give everyone an adequate opportunity to prepare for it.
State will be ready at 9:30 in the morning, Your Honor.
We could do it at 9:30 tomorrow morning also.
All right, the defendant is remanded to the custody of the Colleton County Sheriff's Department. And he may be taken away. Madam Floor Lady and members of the jury, I want to thank you on behalf of the citizens of the state of South Carolina and your fellow citizens of Colleton County. You did not volunteer for this service. You were called upon by being summoned to appear, and Providence have brought you to this moment in time and these weeks in time. I know that all of you have been here at great sacrifice, particularly the juror whose job was on the line until a miracle happened, I guess, that allowed him to be able to leave rather than leave after 2 or 3 weeks. But I want to thank each one of you all individually and collectively. It's not often that you're called upon to sit in judgment of the actions of your fellow man, but you all responded and it gave due consideration to the evidence. I will make no comment now as to the extent or the overwhelming nature of the evidence, but certainly the verdict that you've reached is supported by the evidence, circumstantial evidence, direct evidence, all of the evidence pointing to only one conclusion. That's the conclusion that you all reached. So I applaud you all for, as a group and as a unit and individually, evaluating the evidence and coming to a proper conclusion as you saw the law, as you saw the facts. Now that you've served for the next year, you're not eligible to serve again. Now, of course, many people never get called upon, but you're not eligible for the next year. And for 2 additional years, you can be exempted from service because no person is required to serve on jury duty in this court more often than once every 3 years. Tomorrow morning at 9:30, we will reconvene for sentencing. You all have no role in that because that's solely up to the judge, to me. You're welcome to come back if you want to and be a part of the audience if you like. I also want to thank the alternate juror who was locked away in a room by herself for these hours, who who's hung in there during that period of time. I want to thank you as well. Madam Clerk, what do you have to tell your jurors?
Thank you for your service and what the judge said as well. And I think we can release them tonight and bring them back in the morning.
No, they're off jury duty. They can come back if they like. And you don't have to if you don't want to. Typically, I've seen jurors wanting to see the end result of a case once they've invested a lot into it. It's really an amazing thing with juries. Quite often, at the start of the case, jurors are really like, whoa, why am I here? I wish I wasn't selected. But as time passes and the jurors become invested and really committed to the case and committed to seeing it through, and are very disappointed when they are not able to see it to a conclusion. And then along the way of serving, you end up finding out quite a bit about our judicial system and learning quite a bit, about human nature for sure, but also about the presentation of evidence and hearing from expert witnesses and really learning a lot of things that you'll be able to take with you when you leave jury duty. And Madam Forelady, I don't know if you were hesitant initially or not, but you have stepped up to the plate and done a great job of leading the jury as well. And thank all of you. So the jury is dismissed. Now, one thing before you go, of course, we have invested a lot in maintaining the privacy of the jury, of each one of you. And you are free at this point to discuss the case with anyone. Given the high profile nature of the case, I'm certain that the many people in the media will probably want to communicate with you, but they have no means of contacting you because under order that I issued, the identity of the jurors must be kept private. And if you decide that you want to speak with anyone, local, state, nationally, or internationally, that's your prerogative. However, should anyone harass you, please let me know and I will address those issues. If anyone through the somehow or another discover your identity and harass you, and rest assured I will intercede on your behalf. That having been said, you are free to communicate with whomever you might want to concerning the case from now on. And so with that, thank you, and you all are free to go.
Judge, if I could
Yes.
If I could have you go to the jury room, and I'm going to meet you back there for just a few minutes.
All right.
Gather your belongings.
And as is my practice, I'll speak with the foreperson before you leave the building after talking to them back there. Anything else?
Guilty on all charges. What y'all think? I need some opinions here.
Who's going first?
I am just glad to see the justice process worked.
Oof. Once I heard it was 3 hours and they were back, I'm like, there's no way he's not guilty. You know what I mean? If it was going to be not guilty, it would have took a lot longer, you would think, right?
Yeah, definitely.
I'm
sorry,
stunned,
I'm
though.
pretty excited about it. I'm a little stunned, but excited about it.
And the Daybell case got separated today.
You know what I'm worried about? Is this normal? They showed the jury. Court
They
TV
did?
showed.
Where?
Back,
When did?
really
Oh, you're
squeaky.
crackly.
Yeah,
Me
you're
again?
correctly.
Okay.
Yeah, you're crackling really bad.
The chicken lady's crackling again.
She's cracked. Wait, they didn't show. Did they show the jury? I don't think they would.
Yeah, I
Someone in
think
the
they
chat
did
said.
on their way
They-
out, but it was just like a quick. I mean,
Oh, made a mistake.
the jury usually comes forward after the trial. You know, like sometimes they do like those.
Some of them
like,
will. I bet from this
Yeah,
one.
they go on like Good Morning America, or you know what I mean. Like,
Or
Yeah.
the Queen Bee panel. They're
Yeah.
always
I'm
welcome.
gonna start reaching out, Queen. I'm gonna start reaching out if I can
Joking.
find them.
That's a joke. That's a joke.
Hey, that'd be awesome to get one of them on
You
here.
know, JLR. If he, well, he's too bad he's in CPAP.
right, JLR will be out there.
Yeah, like stalking them. He probably already knows them
Oh yeah.
Sorry.
because you kind of get to know them by if you're around. Well, he wasn't around there that much, but wow. So guilty. What do you think? I mean, as soon as they said 3 hours, I'm like, okay, he's guilty. you
Yeah,
know?
they're gonna. I think there's probably going to be an appeal.
Oh yeah, with all this like 404 like financial motive stuff that came in, that's like setting him up for an appeal. You know.
Yeah,
Though,
because
he was like, hell no.
I mean, like, because the thing is like, and this is just me thinking that, like, to think that it's a financial motive, I feel like an argument can be made that if that stuff wasn't brought in, maybe he would have had a better, maybe it wouldn't have painted him in a bad light to a lot of people, and they would have been able to judge the facts of the case a little
Differently. Yeah.
But there's a, you know what I mean? Like, but he did open a door by jumping on the stand too, so he kind of fucked himself over there.
Yeah, I don't think that helped
Yep.
him too much.
They
because he-
totally panned out and showed the jurors.
Wow. Really?
Court TV did.
Damn,
Wow.
fucking
Freaking court
tragedy,
TV.
tragedy pimp court TV.
And then the
That's not
judge
cool.
says, if for any reason someone obtains your identity, hello?
Court TV. What the hell?
I mean, they had Dolly Vision on their channel, so
Yeah, true.
and you know, just
Isn't
saying.
that a big
Do you hear
deal?
noise or is it me? I hear noise.
Yeah, someone's cooking. It's probably Ellie. She's cooking koala food.
I thought I heard a dog toy squeaking.
She's harvesting eucalyptus. She's
I
hungry.
was
y'all.
muted. I wasn't
Lies.
cooking.
We know about the dogs.
My dogs.
JLR pictured him driving a van full of jurors around these past couple of days with his ball cap.
Right? Oh, God.
You notice how red his face is? You know how it's usually pale? That shit got red as hell when he was getting rid off.
Well, I mean, he just realized that his life is completely
Somebody's
over.
got something. There's something playing. I don't know what it is.
Yeah, it's
but
TV.
It's playing in the background. Somebody's got. Yeah, I was gonna say somebody needs to mute or turn their TV off.
Yeah, I'm muted. I was muted right there and there. It wasn't
Done.
anything.
Done.
Oh,
I
you were
thought it
up
was
with your
way
mic.
low.
No, look.
Yeah, you're doing
Yeah,
it like
Lady Justice, are you up here, baby?
Oh, Lady Justice.
I am.
Oh,
Hey,
my
How are you,
goodness.
love? How are you?
Oh my goodness.
Unbelievable.
Welcome, my dear.
Yikes.
Yikes.
I'll tell you what. If I was Murdoch, I'd want a refund.
yeah.
That was $600,000 worth of
Whoa.
lawyering, guys.
Oh my God.
That
Which
But
is-
they told him not to take the stand and he did it anyway. I feel like he shot
Yeah.
himself in the foot.
All
Yeah,
lawyers
but-
have to say that though. Usually when it's like this, they have to tell you not to.
Well, I mean, he was an idiot
Or
to do that,
suggest,
but
anyways.
there are so many grounds for reversal on this. Watching just objectively, I mean, I tried to stay in the middle on and limited. I told y'all when I talked about this the last time I was on your stream weeks ago, I'm not watching anything on the outside and yada blah yada. I still firmly believe we have just seen the tip of the iceberg on this. I don't know when you guys listen to the trial if there's a big missing piece here. And it has to do with the money and
The
how long it's
50,000
gone
a
on.
week money.
Yeah, the money just
And how long
disappeared.
it's gone on and the bank connection and going back to the days of his, his grandfather, great grandfather. But, the personality characteristics and the shame and the family annihilator, it all
shame.
kind of fit. But
Yeah.
the big thing I think that I did not like at the end, like major faux pas, unless we don't know what Murdoch said, was letting that juror go this morning without protecting the record. That
They
juror
did
was,
let that last juror go.
yeah.
I think they kept the last juror.
Well,
That-
he let one go this morning because, and this has been going
well,
on
that
for
was a big
a
because that
couple of
person-
days.
Yeah,
A
I
couple
heard
of
about that
days
one.
where the ex-husband said that his ex-wife was out talking to people about it, and then they interviewed people, and you know, the judge kind of said they fudged it, and you got Sled, who, I'm sorry guys, but I got a big problem with Sled lying to the grand jury.
You
are
and
the
Alex.
the same ones that investigated, you know, these allegations. I believe probably something happened, but here's where I don't agree with lawyering. The lawyering was Putin just sat there. I think he's a piece of shit, typical politician. Okay, and he's seen his day. But he didn't even protect the record. He should have objected. That person, it was alleged 2 or 3 days ago that she said that they had not proven the case, and they got into it. She got into it with some other jurors when they went on a field trip. So
Oh,
you
I didn't hear about that. She got into it on the field trip.
yeah,
That one?
yeah,
Oh,
with
I didn't know
another
that.
juror. So what the deal is you know all this.
Yeah.
You got, that was the hanger of the jury. She would have hung the jury. You know that.
Interesting.
So
I
clearly
agree.
the judge is going to
He
make his
would
own
have.
decision, and I think the
He
judge
would have
made the
tied
right
them up.
decision. He did not. Putin and Griffin did not protect the record and object. They agreed with it on the record. I mean, I'm not in the courtroom. I don't live there. I'm just hearing this all through like sources.
Yeah.
Right? And like, you didn't even protect the record. But I think that there's a lot of reversible error, and the biggest being, I
The
think,
404 stuff, all that.
yeah, that character evidence.
Mhm.
You know, he's a piece of
Motive.
shit because of the financial crimes.
Yeah, I just don't
And-
see how that's like related to the murder.
Well,
If-
here's where the record on appeal is going to get them. When they were using the financial crimes, even on him, okay, on Alex, when they were cross-examining him, okay, which was the dumbest thing and showed the narcissist, the true narcissist, thinks he could talk his way out of it. But when you go back and watch that cross-exam, that's what like sealed the deal for me on reversal. They didn't even talk about that being a motive.
Yeah, I noticed that. I
It was
just sitting there-
totally just to smear him.
Yeah,
Okay?
and I said to myself, like, if you think objectively and you remove the whole financial thing, what do they have in their case? They have I don't even think they have a motive. They could say a family annihilator, but they didn't really focus too much on that. They didn't really focus. I mean, opportunity, yes. They didn't have a murder weapon, I think, and really. If you don't have motive and you just have opportunity and no murder weapon,
The timeline, I think, was
big.
that's
opportunity. That's opportunity.
Yeah. The timeline
Can you
and
objectively
the lying about that kennel, that was big. I think for them and for a lot of other people. When
that goes
lied
against
about
his
that.
credibility. I mean, obviously, but we already know he's a big.
Well, yeah. So
liar.
there was Maggie had like Moselle was totally in Maggie's name. It could be financial.
Well, no, because that's all taken care of in most states. It doesn't matter if you're in a marriage and that's a long-term 24, 25-year marriage. It's not, it doesn't matter who it's titled in. It's what the wealth is that's accumulated in the marriage would be split if they got divorced.
Community property, like community.
But it's not like it's not called community property because we have to argue about it in states that aren't community property.
Oh yeah, you're right.
But it's a fair and equitable settlement. So the fact that it was in her name didn't give that asset to her totally, and it did come out that the fact that she was dead didn't allow him to move anything that was in her name.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But
So
maybe
and they're
just
fighting.
thought of it as money. You know what I mean? Thought of it as like, oh, she left Edisto. I'll be able to like sell that place or sell.
I
You know what I
believe
mean?
he
Like
thought he was going to be able to, but I believe what's happened is in the time they were separated, she probably had other documents drawn up, and I think that probably put Paul in control of that, not Alec.
Yeah.
I really
No,
believe
that
they
didn't
were
come
headed
up in
into
the
divorce.
trial, though.
No,
That never came
there's
up in
no
trial.
evidence of that, and there was never any evidence, including from her own sister,
Yeah,
that she went
that
to
would've
go
came
talk
up.
about to a divorce lawyer.
They would have brought that up.
Her personality was that I got from listening to the testimony and that is there's no way that she couldn't have known he was a pathological liar.
Right.
He had an addiction. An addict's behavior is an addict's behavior.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, she knew, and you go along because she was part of the, you know, the legend, if you will.
Yeah.
And living a great life. So I don't think that divorce, and very wealthy people, although
Look the
we
other
got Bill
way.
Gates, right? I mean,
Yeah.
they usually, it's not look the other way. They just live in their own, you know, live
Bubble.
their own
Yeah.
lives. But they remain kind of a family. And I believe they did for those boys, but I think they both benefited from the, you know, going out and living the rich and high on the hog. But there's no way she didn't know. And kind of, I think the sad thing is what I feel for his son. I mean, not just the victims, but having to watch his son go through that. You can tell he is like totally numbed out and trauma, but unbelievable trauma.
Yeah.
Is for his, you know, son. But you can tell, I did listen to some of the jailhouse tapes, and
Yeah, me too.
you can tell that his son knows he's full of shit and he lies.
Yeah.
For sure.
You know, but it's very, very interesting. I think it was captivating. I like that that the jury did decide when they came
I
in,
was surprised.
I knew it was guilty.
Oh yeah. As soon as they said there was a verdict, I was like, what, it has to be like,
But
there's
that
no
just
way.
reinforces
What you said about that other juror. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
And
That's
the alternate was the one that was putting stuff in her ears and putting a blanket over her head.
Yeah. And there was one falling asleep. Oh, she was putting the stuff in her ears, right? Yeah.
So I don't know. I think that the judge has there's several rulings that were reversible error, and I really believe appellate court won't go through 6 weeks of testimony, and you have to kind of pick and choose what's the best ways of getting a reversal, clear out reversal. I think that the judge was extremely biased.
Really?
I do.
Huh.
Most judges are on the prosecutorial bent, but I do. I think that several times his rulings were extremely biased and one-sided. So
can you highlight one that you think was like
I can't think off the top of my head, but it was just like how he would let the prosecutor go on about stuff that wasn't the easiest was how he treated the attorneys with objections.
They didn't object much as lawyers in general in this court.
Well, they did a lot. They did a lot of speaking.
Well, I feel like, what is this judge? What happened? If these guys know and he was judged by a jury of his peers, they know him and they've grown up with him. They grew up around him. You know what I mean? Like they know this family. So it's almost like what
that's where I feel like
down in his bloodline somewhere, like in his relative. You know what I mean?
Well, they're in the South. I mean, his family might have had them as he was an African American judge in the South, and the Murdoch family was very prestigious and wealthy and known for bootlegging and all that. And probably back in the day, they probably had a few slaves, for real.
There was an interview that Court TV did with a woman that said that she's reached out to so many people in that town. They have only good things to say about him and blah, 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 blah. I'll find it and put it in the back for you guys if you want. But
I believe he's a good judge. I just think
no, not the judge, Alec. Everybody reaching out to find people about Alec, about the case, and literally not one thing, only positive stuff.
Well, I think I mean, he does come off like a people pleaser, and I mean, and a bullshitter. I mean, he's a snake oil salesman. But here's the question that I want to kind of hear on. It's a little bit outside the legal, but when you know that his great-grandfather was involved with the bootlegging and the bootlegging with the alcohol, and then you had the drugs coming in, okay, and that area is very, very, very well known for that.
Yeah.
And the property that, Alec ended up owning with the one that was in the family that was involved in the original with his grandfather doing the drugs, smuggling the drugs in and out.
Yeah.
And going back and forth from the Bahamas. And we see all this money and money laundering. I've heard that he's not the only attorney that was involved in some of these activities in that law firm. You heard that on the stand.
Mm-hmm. And there's like a fixer that he had.
Yeah, it kind of got stopped. Like the office manager or the CFO, how is $10 million missing?
How could they not know? You know what I mean? Like,
You know,
it's crazy.
if there's $100 missing from my trust account, the state bar knows. But I mean, for sure, when there's millions, I think that several of the lawyers did some funky stuff with the money, and there's some laundering of money going on. I don't know what it is.
Wait, you don't think he took $50,000 worth of pain pills a week?
Not unless he was sharing them with everyone that he glad handed.
Yeah. I mean, even like
not only
Rush
that, you
Limbaugh
guys,
did
look at the
30
trip.
a day.
Look at the trips to the NCAA for how many people, the trips to the Bahamas.
I think he
They
was a
owned an
gambler.
airplane.
So my
yes,
thing
they
is
talked about that.
Gambling, drugs, started with alcohol, moved into the drugs, went from weed, so went from alcohol to weed, from what I understand. Then to which they should just legalize it if it's not legal there yet, and let the taxpayers like get some relief. But then it went to pills. Okay. And it's funny because they call them pills. We call them drugs. Did you notice they referred to them as pills, like it was minimizing it? But
yeah.
Then there's some gambling. Okay. So my thing was, and I wasn't convinced on a lot of stuff. I was convinced he knew it was happening. Okay. That he was there or around there when it happened. I was not convinced that he did the shooting. Don't ask me why. I just didn't have enough. I had a lot of doubt about that. But
there was doubt.
That's why I thought he's doing all this stuff that, you do when it's like a Ponzi scheme type thing. Money was just like, he's robbing Peter to pay Paul, and there was no more robbing that he could do. Okay. So I thought that maybe he had a debt to somebody because it was a cartel style killing, you guys.
But they said it wasn't cartel because it would
you
be
shoot
like one or two shots to the back of a head or something, or maybe something went wrong. But they said he would have been too far away from there. He would have been 5 minutes from them.
To me, I don't know why I always thought it was more of that than a crime of passion with that many. I just could not, when they were talking about blowing the brains out and that, I cannot see a father doing that to his son.
Just the like family, like annihilator, that shame. That's the only thing. And that Paul was like gonna possibly.
Yeah, I was like suspecting like later on that I thought someone might have I had a feeling that, and this is just conspiracy tinfoil hat theory here, that he doesn't seem like the type to pull the trigger, and he would probably hire someone if he was going to have someone killed.
Yeah. He couldn't kill his own dog, you guys.
Yeah.
You remember that testimony? They didn't get on, and that's where Griffin, like, for fuck's sake, you guys, he didn't bring that up. How would they know that? How would you know? Because Paul had people out there, right? And I guess, he was a typical teenager enabled by his parents, but you guys, he did the Snapchat. So you would know where he was, and you wouldn't have known his mom was there. So I could have, gone with somebody went to off him, but I think
Murdoch made
a
him
tip of the iceberg on all the money and what was going on, and I think he had some partners that are involved in it.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's not a lot of I think it's just a very tough situation because I always thought there was certain elements of this case that were just missing, and I just felt like it wasn't a complete picture. A lot of people say you don't really need a motive to convict someone, but it still helps to paint a picture. Why did he do it? Where did the money go?
They didn't tell a good story. The prosecutors.
If the money was the motive, then that Adesto property that they were talking about, that was just it wasn't refinancing. It was just re-signing the loan with the bank that never denied him anything. So I didn't see that.
I think it's the boating. It's the first thing he said. He said it to them over and over again. He thought that was the motive for whoever did it. So he's projecting his own motive onto other people. I think that day, mediation ended. It was going to trial. He was going to be going to jail. Paul was going to go to jail. The shame, it overtook him and he snapped, I guess, and just did it.
I really agree that I agree it has something to do with the timing of all of that. The fact that maybe the life that he knew everything was crumbling down around him. He had passed on his fuck ups to his children. I mean, I personally heard the one thing that I heard of remorse from him was I should have had a better gun policy. And he's right. He should have had a better gun policy because there were guns here, there, and everywhere.
Yeah, I think, but if we look at the money motive, which I can't even get my brain around, like that kind of money. But if we look at it and the addiction goes in with it, and but the thing is, his dad was on his deathbed.
Yeah.
And so
And
he
that was
getting
money.
from the trust on that. And
Yeah.
the Adesto house and the
I don't see money. It's
And
more
then-
the
motel
boating
house had
accident.
no mortgage on it, you guys.
Any question? Wouldn't it
Oh, the
make more
motel didn't.
sense if he was like this guy who's willing to kill his own son and his wife? Wouldn't he most likely go after like the person who has the ability to give him all that money, like his father or something like that? I don't know. It
Well,
makes
that's
more
kind of what
If
I'm
it was a
saying.
money motive, I don't think it was. I think it was a shame thing with the boating
I
accident.
think it's all of it. I think money with the
Maybe.
boating because they were being sued for what, 30-40 million
Yeah, but you guys,
Yeah.
that was garbage.
And things were going to
here's
be
what I'll tell you.
opened
And
even more.
anyone
Yes.
a real plaintiff's lawyer on personal injury knows that there is no cause of action there's no cause of action for negligent parenting of a child that's over 18.
Yeah, the kid was a
So
bad
those
seed.
theories and how he was going to get Maggie, he can't, which he pulled them in just to be vindictive and to squeeze the money out. But so there was no theory for that. The license was minor. Parker, the party store still hasn't paid out. And the amount of money, he would have had to liquidate. He could have figured that, but maybe like it all together,
Yeah.
as they said, the perfect storm kind of happened, but I just can't.
And Paul being mad at
Mallory
Paul,
Beach's
maybe.
attorney was knew about it
Yeah.
He's an
already.
asshole.
He was.
Well,
was
he
a
would have
good-
exposed
he was a
all
good
of
witness,
this.
though.
He
And
sat.
if
he
Paul
sat-
was
Took a
gone,
stand,
he
that
thought
guy,
it would
right?
go away.
One at a time, guys. One at a time.
Yeah.
Tinsley, the lawyer for Mallory Beach, is overreaching. I have nothing for him. Sat in the first row with his wife, his new wife. I guess I just hang around lawyers too much to know what kind of person he is. But
Yeah,
you put
definitely.
the pressure on. You put the pressure on, and I didn't get the idea that Alex was like a hothead. He just kind of blow him off. I just think the not knowing, and his wife Maggie saying I'll start all over, but he knew they couldn't start all over. I'm still just not convinced, because what we don't know is, because his dad had that trust, we don't know how much money he was getting out of the trust, how much his dad left him.
Mm-hmm. I have a question for you though. The financial crimes he was doing, a lot of people say that he would face those charges alone, he would face a long time in jail.
Yeah, that's I guess, and maybe that's why I kind of could see reasonable doubts and didn't know which way it was going to go. But is the financial crimes alone, and because he's in a position of trust, it's just like if a priest or a teacher, essays a student, they're in a coach, they're in a position of trust. It's the same thing with a lawyer. We're in a position of trust.
Yeah.
So it's it's more than what you would normally get. And for God's sakes, that amount of money, yeah, he would be in for the rest of his life anyways.
Mhm.
I think that
There's 100 indictments against him.
I think that's where I would have been fine with the not guilty, which is so sad, because I feel for the victims, but I also feel for the survivors, to have to live with knowing that as his son.
I thought it was going to be like a hung jury, but maybe it would have been, like you said, with that other juror, because there's it just takes, I feel like even on YouTube, there is like some people don't, like you said, feel like he is the one with the gun,
Well,
what I mean?
and they replaced the one that would have hung the jury with a male.
Yeah.
That could be grounds for an appeal.
No, they didn't protect the record.
She's saying they didn't.
They didn't. He didn't object.
Karpulian had to be a kiss ass and said, "Yeah, judge, I agree," and whatever. I mean, he did not even protect the record.
He didn't object and note his objection or something like that.
Yes, he should have said, "Your Honor, I understand. With all due respect to the court, we object to that happening because he said the thing about SLED, but he didn't object enough to preserve the record in my
That's not good."
But
Lady Justice, I have this question.
Sure.
Court TV actually showed the jury. They panned across the whole jury.
I saw that.
How big of a deal is that?
I'd be pissed if I was the jury, but I get the idea. And, a couple of you guys were talking about this, that in that small town, everybody in that town already knows who that whole jury was.
Yeah.
Yeah, but not
It's
everybody
really
watching
small
court
town.
TV did, you know? Like, whoa.
Yeah. Yeah. But I got the idea from what the judge said. If your media sitting in that courtroom, your media
Stay away.
Yeah, like real media, real credentialed, not your blow frauds.
Yeah,
And
or you would
JLR.
not cross that.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
they have ethical
Mm-mm.
codes of conduct.
Yeah, you
So,
can't do shit like that.
but I'd
guys.
be shocked if they don't try to make, some money out of being on the jury somehow. I mean, they always do in these high profile cases.
Do you think JLR will get an interview?
No.
I'm sure.
What surprised me is, everybody, there's been so many things out of, everybody saying how, they're shady people and, they've done this, and this. And then like, I'm trying to find this interview. I'm going to find it for you guys. When the lady was asking this other lady, and she's like, I've dug up so many people, old, young, X, Y, and Z. I have not had one issue with any of the people disliking Alex or saying they've done anything nefarious. So that it's like, which one is it though? You know what I mean?
Well, I mean, you get the idea when he was testifying, and even when, like, right after the murders happened, and he's like saying, "Oh, I talked to the 911 lady, and she was real good. She was real good." Like, so he's used to doing, like, he didn't become this person. I mean, he did become this person, over time, but
by
not
being that.
overnight.
Yeah, it
maybe,
happens. Yeah,
his dad was doing illegal stuff. His grandfather and great grandfather were doing illegal things.
he did it slowly, one at a
Yeah,
time,
but
until it became.
they're like folksy, they kind of get along with everybody. And
Yeah.
he was nice and apologetic on the stand. So, like, his demeanor, he wasn't like a combative kind of guy. So I bet people did like him.
He wasn't terrible on the stand, as a witness. That's why
Well,
he probably
the-
did it,
The problem is that, I mean, like, I just felt like it just like made him look really bad for his character. I'm just like, I lied to my family, I lied to my friends, I lied to the cops.
Well, that was the worst thing ever. That part.
And then not
I couldn't get
answering
over that
questions.
lie. That was the big thing with me. I can't get over that lie and him lying all that time about him being there. Like, if I would have much more reasonable doubt if that video never existed, truthfully, like much more. Like, if he maybe did take a nap and leave and boom, But to put him there 5 minutes before, I mean, give me a break.
He
drove away and they drove up and killed. Right? It just doesn't work like that.
Yeah.
Do you guys think if he did not take the stand, this would be all different?
I don't know.
Possibly.
I mean, I think the problem is this that background.
All right, here, as I said, they're getting ready to do a press conference after the verdict. So when it pops on, I'll turn it up.
Yeah, tell us to shut up. Yeah, I think that taking the stand definitely didn't do him any good, but he got on the stand and lied and tried to explain things away. I mean, I think that, like, the rebuttal witness that they had, that talked about the ballistics and how it happened and all that, I think he was, a big piece. And then I don't think the field trip helped him, you guys.
Yeah.
I don't. I watched Crime and Justice. I watched the photographer end of it, and like one of that female photographer, like, oh my God, or whatever she said, like, just the gravity of knowing what happened there. I just don't think it helped. And the bike in the front yard, what the heck? I don't think that the field trip helped, and I mean, I think the closing was lame. I fell asleep.
I also thought, like, during his the prosecutor's cross-examination, I didn't think, like, I'm surprised that the defense didn't object a lot just to fuck up his flow a little bit. Just
Someone asked me if we care as lawyers if we win or lose, and, like, if you really care about what you're doing, you don't like to lose, but you can kind of come to grips with, well, that's what the jury did, or they saw it different. I mean, you kind of come to grips with it. When it really hurts is if you're a personal injury, if you're taking a contingent fee and you lose.
Yeah.
But the defense attorneys, you're getting paid all the time, and they got paid handsomely. And I just feel like as the trial went on more and more, maybe it was the bias of the judge, or that they kept getting shut down, or they couldn't do their little folksy talking objections all the time. I don't know. But the last couple of days, it just didn't even seem like they were putting much into it.
Right? It seemed like flat, really
Yep.
flat. It was hard to follow. I feel like
And so
Water
their
was like
client's in
all
jail
over.
for the rest of his life. The financial crimes are going to be pled, and they're going to work out some kind of a plea, which I don't even know why it matters, because
Now it doesn't even
he's getting
matter.
sentenced, right? So
Yeah.
that's all gone. So then all you got left is the boat case, and Tinsley taking as much as he can so he can put 40% in his pocket. And I feel bad. I mean, I feel bad for the Beach family. I really, really do. But I also feel like it's gone way too far.
I think they settled like right when the trial started. Didn't they
No,
settle?
no,
One
Buster
of not
did.
part Buster did, but not like not the grocery store, right? Parkman's or whatever that
No.
was. Yeah.
Alex is still in it too.
Mm-hmm.
What he's
Because
got
they
to
want to pull as much money out of the estate, and that's where I got a problem. Pull as much money as you can out of that estate, and get as much, like his $600,000 that the lawyers got. I think he had like $1.4 million in his 401k, and you can't touch that, like through liquidation. That nobody can touch that money. So when they decided the lawyers had to get paid, and they said, pull it, which is pretty common, you guys, like in these types of criminal cases, for somebody to pull it out of their retirement. Well, there was the tax hit. So they pulled the money out. There was the tax hit. And then Hartpoolia and Griffin wanted more. And don't think that I'm not thinking they were going to shift some somewhere to his son or some other account, right? But they took their money, and then the Beach family got some money out of that too. And then the money that was stolen from the law firm was paid by insurance, you guys. So
Yeah.
F
Oh,
those partners that got up there and were so indignant. I'd be upset that I was betrayed, right? But like acting like they paid millions, they didn't. Insurance paid a lot of it. And Alex still had money coming into the firm with cases, that he had that were active when this all happened. So the actual loss to the law firm is nowhere near what he stole.
Yeah. Well, it'll be very interesting deposition in the jailhouse, because that's probably where they're going to have to do the deposition of Murdoch, maybe, if they're going to depose him.
Yeah, I don't know what's left of him, but I guess with the corruption that went on and that kind of stuff, I'm like, maybe
Lady
it'll.
Justice, what do you
Yeah.
think he's going to get tomorrow? Sentencing. What would you predict? You know what I mean?
Did
If
he
it,
say it was 25
They're
or
not. I
30?
was gonna say they put sentencing off. They're not doing it tomorrow.
There
oh,
they
they
are.
9:30.
Oh,
They said.
off. I didn't think they were doing it tomorrow.
Yeah, they
Yeah,
said
they are.
9:30.
Yeah, 9:30.
Oh
9:30
shit.
with
Okay, well then,
Shackley.
because I thought he said a later date. We'll do sentencing
And
at a
it's
later date.
So
and Lady
usually,
Justice, it's 30 years.
yeah, so 30 years, and they're concurrent, which means they're served at the same time. It's 30 years is the base to life without the possibility of parole. So I would think that the judge, seeing what he saw in the pictures that none of us saw, like, I think he's probably going to get life without parole on both of them.
Okay.
The
So,
judge is going
he's
to do
going to get
sentencing.
2 life sentences, but it's not going to matter. And this
Mhm.
not that it doesn't, because innocent people were, lives were taken, but the financial, he's going to get the same thing. So he's going to have, he might have a total of, the equivalent of 4 life sentences, but I mean, you can only serve one, right?
But
He's gotta
financial
get
doesn't
out.
run concurrent with the murder, right? That's different.
Well, the thing with the financial that I'm not sure about is, from what I understand, because it's like from what I understand, there's a major investigation going on with the FBI as well, which means like for the federal court with the guy that got convicted in the bank, the guy from the bank that's no longer the CEO and president is, they believe
From
that
Palmetto Bank, you're talking
yeah, the
about?
Palmetto
Yeah.
Bank guy.
Mhm.
They believe that there was more than one person involved, and it was more of a conspiracy. So you're looking at more of the money laundering, which is, federal. It was going through a bank. So it's a question of if the AG says, which the AG should say, get him to plea on these. What does he have to lose? plea
Yeah.
on ease, but the federal crimes would still be there. And that's where I keep
Oh.
going. This is deeper. There's more people involved in this. And
There's one guy that was just indicted,
Oh,
right? The Palmetto guy. Wasn't the Palmetto guy just
well, he
somebody
was
was
convicted.
convicted? Yeah. Like a couple last month, like a couple months ago,
Yeah.
right? Yeah.
And that
Mhm.
Corey Fleming is involved. There's a
Yeah.
couple other lawyers involved.
It does go
There's,
deeper.
you
There's
know, a
and that
sheriff
fixer guy.
involved. You
There's,
know,
I mean, I'm sure he, like, you saw he walked around with that badge and he had lights on his car. Like he was buddies with everybody, you know? That's
yeah.
why blaming it on SLED is a little bit, you know,
Well,
he
he
probably
exactly.
knows how corrupt they are because he's corrupt, you know, he's
There you go,
corrupt
Ellie.
alongside with them.
he's never getting out. And even like, again, going back to some of those jailhouse calls, it was really sad to listen to somebody because addictions do this, guys. I mean, they do,
Yeah.
is
Yep. Make
um
you not think right.
and he knew he fell short in his dad's eyes. Yeah, he got these great, settlements and stuff based off the name, and that is how it works in our industry, you guys. But
Yep.
it's the name of whoever your daddy was, right? But I
Especially
think
down
he
there.
knew he fell short in his dad's eyes. I don't know how to
Ooh,
say
here we
it.
go.
That would be that shame.
Interesting. Yeah. That's a shame. Goes back to the whole shame thing.
But
You know?
All right.
Y'all be patient. There's a lot of us coming out. How are we on the mic check?
Hey,
thank you.
I'm going to say something real quick. That is the real Attorney General for the state.
Wow. What a great day for the people of South Carolina. I want to thank every one of you for being here tonight. There's a lot of emotion here tonight at this courthouse. A lot of a year and a half, nearly 2 years of blood, sweat, and tears, it feels like. A lot of hard work from so many people. So if you will just bear with me, there's there's a lot of people I have to thank. But first, those of you who don't know, I'm Alan Wilson. I'm South Carolina's Attorney General, and I got the best staff of any Attorney General in the United States of America. I want to start by thanking our prosecution team. I want to tell you, I've been here for nearly 6 weeks with this team, living in a hotel, and it felt almost like being in a dorm environment in college. Late nights, cramming, studying, little sleep, away from our families, getting up early, getting here to the courthouse, working long hours, getting on each other's nerves at times. But it was all worth it. It was all worth it because we got to bring justice and be a voice for Maggie and Paul Murdaugh and bring justice for the people of South Carolina. I'd like to start real briefly by thanking our team. First, put my glasses on. Our chief prosecutor, I tell you, I appointed Creighton Waters to be the chief prosecutor of this case nearly a year and a half ago. And I want to say I'm pretty brilliant because I picked the right guy. And I want to say thank you to Creighton Waters. Creighton, you did a fantastic job. I don't think there's another attorney in the state of South Carolina that could have led this Herculean effort. But Creighton will be the first to tell you he didn't do it alone because he had a team of people. I want to first thank Don Zelinka, who is actually Creighton's boss. He is the Deputy Attorney General, been in the Attorney General's office for over 40 years. Sitting here to my immediate left, Don Zelinka, thank you so much. John Metters, many of you got to see him do the closing argument today. John, thank you. You've been a phenomenal add to our team. I'm going to go quickly through the names, but as I read the names, please raise your hand. You know Creighton, you saw Don, and you see John. David Fernandez, John Conrad, Johnny James, Savannah Gould, Ozzy Toledo, yes. Shane Acito, yes. Carly Jewell, yes. Carson Burney, yes. Danielle Colon, yes. And our victims advocate, Trisha Allen. Yes. I also want to say thank you to the South Carolina Law Enforcement Division. Mark Keel assigned some amazing men and women. And when I say it was an agency-wide effort on behalf of SLED, I can't underscore that part enough. Every time I called Chief Keel, every time I reached out to the lead agents, every time Creighton was asking me, hey, General, we need something from SLED, we would reach out to SLED, and they were there. They busted their butts. I can't begin to list every agent, and some can't be listed for obvious reasons. Some are standing up here tonight. I told them I wasn't going to mention their names, but we would not be here if it wasn't for SLED. And I want to thank Mark Keel and his team and all of the men and women across the entire state law enforcement division for what they did to make tonight a possibility. Amen. I also want to thank the FBI and the Secret Service, our federal partners. We had to utilize many of their assets and resources. We couldn't do all the things that we did without our federal partners. We had a lot of local partners. We had the Colleton County Sheriff's Department, Buddy Hill, Sheriff Hill and his team providing the security. They did a phenomenal job, and they were there. They were the first responders the night on June 7th, 2021, when Maggie and Paul were butchered brutally. They were the first responders, and they were the first ones to be there. The Charleston County Sheriff's Office, the Orangeburg County Sheriff's Office were instrumental in supporting our investigative efforts. You all know Kenny Kinsey, our chief crime scene expert, was with the Orangeburg Sheriff's Office. I also want to thank the city of Walterboro. I think the mayor is here somewhere, and the police department. They provided security. Thank you. This whole community has embraced our entire team, and I cannot thank you enough. We've all been away from our families, 2 hours away from our families for the past 2 months. And it's this community that made us, we would walk into restaurants and people would come up and thank us. You know, you don't have any idea how good that makes people feel when they're under an incredible amount of stress, an incredible amount of scrutiny, and this community really embraced us. I want to thank the Colleton County Clerk of Court, Becky Hill, and her entire team and their staff. I don't know. I call her Becky Booth. That's her nickname. But Madam Clerk, wherever you are tonight. I'm sorry. That's my pet name for her. But I want to thank you, Madam Clerk, for you, the entire team, the bailiffs, the court security, the staff here. There was no role that was too small that they weren't willing to do for us. The security team here, it was a Herculean effort by everybody, and I can't thank enough people. I don't know if I mentioned the bailiffs, but I want to thank them. And there's another group of people who you don't know who they are, but that's the jurors. And not just the jurors, but the alternates, the ones who didn't even get to serve to the very end, but people who were taken away from their families. I want to thank the families of our jurors who sat here every single day for what seemed like long amounts of tedious, monotonous information and evidence. Sometimes people didn't know what it meant. They didn't understand it, and they had to sit there and process it and hear it over and over and over again. And I want to thank these nameless jurors whose identities have been protected. They may make their identities available to all of you at some point, but they sat there and they delivered justice tonight. And I want to thank them for their role in this process. Amen. You know, Winston Churchill said, democracy is the worst form of government except for every other kind. I kind of want to adopt that and say we may have the worst criminal justice system in the world, but it's better than every other kind that there is. And our criminal justice system worked tonight. It gave a voice to Maggie and Paul Murdaugh, who were brutally mowed down and murdered on the night of June 7th, 2021 by someone that they loved and someone that they trusted. And they couldn't be here to testify for themselves tonight. Their testimony came through the evidence and the information that was gathered by the men and women of the agencies I've just mentioned. It came from the testimony of the agents and the investigators and the attorneys and the folks in our staff who were able to get it to the court record. And so I want to say tonight, their voice was heard tonight and justice was brought for them. We can't bring them back, but we can bring them justice. Amen. Amen. I started off my remarks by saying it is a good day in South Carolina. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Today's verdict proves that no one, no matter who you are in society, is above the law. Amen. Thank you. A lot of people doubted that this process would work, and hopefully, for those who did doubt the process, hopefully we have instilled and put a little bit of faith back into you and your lives as you view this process as it unfolds. I'm proud of this team. I'm proud of the men and women standing behind me tonight. And there's been a lot of emotion. And I just want to say from the bottom of my heart, I saw firsthand for the last 5 or 6 weeks the countless nights where you were up beyond midnight and you were getting up before dawn, not eating. Watching Nancy Grace the other night, and I heard her call Creighton pale and gaunt because Creighton wasn't eating and sleeping. He really wasn't, folks. I'm serious. You know, we would have to bring in kind bars and things to eat during breaks. But Creighton, Herculean effort, my friend. And I am truly honored to have you on our team. Thank you for being a great leader and a great chief prosecutor. And I would like to invite you to come up here and make some remarks for the folks here tonight.
Thanks, everybody. And I'll start by thanking this guy who's given me and all these folks behind us opportunities to do justice, which is what we want to do with our careers. It is very tough and demanding, but it's rewarding for moments like these. The general stole a lot of my lines, but I also want to thank the jurors for their long and arduous service. And we had no doubt that if we had a chance to present our case in a court of law, that they would see through the one last con that Alec Murdaugh was trying to pull. And they did, and we're so grateful for that. I get to lead the state grand jury section in the Attorney General's office. This particular case is not a state grand jury case. There are other indictments at our state grand jury. But the one thing about that is that I have an amazing team. And I want to be clear, this was a team effort. Y'all saw all of these folks behind me doing amazing work. And I can't be prouder of a team in my life. We called this our Super Bowl, and not because of the media attention, but just because of the effort that we knew that we would have to put into this. And we didn't really get to watch much of the Super Bowl that went on because when we arrived, I think it was winter and it feels like spring now. But every single member of this team, every single member of the state grand jury staff, what we do well is work together as a team in complex investigations. And who we work with is my partners at SLED. And I can't thank them enough as well because we're used to working on these complex cases and working together. And I'm not leaving out Sheriff Hill and the Colleton County Sheriff's Office and our federal partners in Orangeburg and Charleston Sheriff's Office and all the other agencies that have worked on this case. I also want to thank Miss Becky, if she's still up there, because she's been amazing. The clerk staff has been amazing. The court staff has been amazing. The bailiffs have been amazing. And again, I also want to thank this community who really has embraced us and has been so great to us and made us able to survive this process that has been long and arduous. And I have been sleeping. And I have been eating more than Kind bars every now and then. But, and I'm sure that's a nice plug for Kind. But anyway, it really has been a great process. We will have sentencing tomorrow. Obviously, we're not going to comment on sentencing because that's still pending. But justice was done today. It doesn't matter who your family is. It doesn't matter how much money you have or people think you have. It doesn't matter what you think, how prominent you are. If you do wrong, if you break the law, if you murder, then justice will be done in South Carolina. And I think South Carolina has shown to the nation and the world how a process can work and work well. Thank y'all.
And also, I want to thank Creighton. I told Creighton, I said, Creighton, I'm going to come down and I'm going to be just a staff attorney. I know I'm your boss. I'm your boss's boss's boss, but I said I'm going to come down and I'm going to help. And I said I'm going to follow instruction. And I hope I was true to my word. This past weekend, I said, what can I do to help? I said I'm willing to take a witness if it'll help. He said actually it would. So he let an old prosecutor dust off his cleats and get back in the game and to help the team out. And
I got to be the boss of the boss for a while.
Yeah, don't get used to it. No, but in all seriousness, I'm proud of the decisions that I made in putting the people behind me and to the left and right of me in charge of this case. And I was honored to be part of this team. Just another member, just another worker bee in the trenches trying to bring justice to the people of this state and to bring justice to the people who couldn't be here tonight because they were brutally murdered by someone they trusted. Now, with that being said, I know a lot of people want to talk to us. A lot of people want to talk to some of the attorneys and the support staff and the agents, investigators here tonight. Some of you want to talk to me and others. We're going to make ourselves available to you. But like Mr. Waters just said, tomorrow there's a sentencing hearing, and we don't want to get out in front of our skis. And plus, I'm starting to feel the rain come down. But I promise you, we're going to make ourselves available to talk to members of the media, to talk to all of you out there that have questions. We'll answer any questions that we ethically can. We hope you'll continue to be patient with us as we finish this process tomorrow. Again, we're going to go back and get a good night sleep tonight. But again, thank you. I'm going to also, one last group that we didn't thank, the media. You all, I know a lot of people in this, polarizing world we live in, a lot of people take shots at the media, but the media was incredibly respectful. You were so good, not just to us, but listen, to the families of the victims, okay? I know this is an awkward situation, but, you protected the identities of people and, you protected the process. And I want to thank you for your part in this and telling the stories, educating the public on what's going on out there. So now I'm going to stop speaking as an attorney general, and I'm going to close as a father and as a husband to say that when you go home tonight, hug your loved ones, hug your spouse, hug your children, because this case reminds us of anything that you can't take for granted that people in your family are always going to be there. And right now, when I get home tomorrow, I'm going to hug mine, and I hope you hug yours. But thank you again. Thank you for your prayers.
Yes, sir.
Thank you for your prayers. You came and prayed for me. I see a lot of people come and say we're praying for you. We appreciate your prayers. Thank you all so much. And this is going to conclude this press conference. We look forward to talking to all of you tomorrow. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm gonna let you go right here. I just want to thank you and your staff. Y'all did a good job. God bless you. Thank y'all very much. Thank y'all. And thank the media. Y'all did a good job, and you've been so good to you.
That was a good speech.
I liked it.
I mean, I think it's a little premature, to be honest with you. I think there's appeals process, but I guess, probably.
Well, I mean, they needed to think, they felt
They
like
just
it was.
seemed a little over the top, though. With thanking him.
Remember, it's been a year and a half. They've been working this case, a lot of stress. and all that time.
No, I get it. They're just, yeah.
Hi, Heels. What's up? I seen you took a break today. But yeah, it's interesting. I
thought what was it, the Attorney General? That was the one that the main guy speaking. I thought he was a little patting himself a little bit too much on his own back. But other than that, I thought it was a pretty, you know what I mean?
Somebody said he's up for re-election soon. Oops. So,
political stinks.
Sounded like something like that. It sounded like a little bit like a campaign rally more than a, victory for murder victims. I don't know.
I could smell the politics.
They're going to go have some drinks and they're going to fucking party.
Yes.
They are.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
No, they got to get ready for that sentencing in the morning. I doubt it.
Whatever. They don't care.
Tomorrow night, they might party, but not tonight.
They're going to party tonight, too.
We'll pre-party tonight, maybe. A couple of drinks,
Definitely.
Oh, we have two lady justices up here.
Gosh, he's multiplying.
We have lady justice and real lady justice.
Oh my gosh. Uh-oh.
So it's probably one from her laptop and one from her phone. Her phone might have died or something. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yep.
I took the other one down. We'll add this one.
Yeah, pretty much. I think Lady Justice is having some issues.
Pretty much what?
No, I'm saying pretty much Lady Justice is having some issues.
Gotcha. Oh, okay. I thought you were talking about the press conference.
I mean, I don't know what else to say. They're very happy.
Yeah.
About the
Oh yeah,
conviction.
of course
It's
they're going to be happy. Yeah.
It's going to be probably going to be on his political campaign thing when he does his fundraising for next year. I got Murdoch in jail, and I mean, pretty much that's it. We'll see what
Creighton
the sentencing.
was happy for the first.
I didn't think he was going to get found guilty. I was like 50-50, so I'm sure they thought the same thing. So when that came out, they were probably like, "Whoa!"
Yeah,
themselves.
honestly, I'm like, if you just remove the financial things of him being a piece of shit, I don't think the finance is a motive. And they didn't really explain where the hell the money went. And
Well,
if you
that's what
do
they
all
said is the
that,
appealable right there part. When it was
yeah,
happening, they were
and
like,
I
well,
agree.
this, you know,
Yeah, I mean,
so.
like, do I have a feeling that the guy is guilty? Yes. If you're asking me, like, do I feel like this guy is really guilty? Yes. Do I
Mhm.
think I agree? Then, yeah, I kind of remove myself from the emotion and try to think of like the facts of the case, and I'm trying to
Like
think
motive.
like, well, motive's one thing, but like the evidence presented, is it enough to convict a man for life if you remove the financial motive out of it?
Yeah. I guess, I
And
don't
that's
know. Yeah. For me, that video was really big. I
Yeah,
don't
that
know.
video's not good. I mean, like, but I think, like, I'm pretty sure that guy did it. But, like,
But
will he have an appeal? Probably. Will it work? I don't know.
you don't, yeah. It's
That
very tough.
Snapchat video fucked him up, or he wouldn't have been. He would have been off. You know what I mean? If his
Yeah.
son got that Snapchat video, he'd have been done. It'd been over with.
Sure did, and especially how he acted on that interview when he was confronted with it.
Right?
That was
Are you up
something
here, Lady
else.
Justice? Can you hear us?
Yeah, I am. I agree with some of those comments on the AG's bravado.
Did you watch?
Man, he's been an attorney for the AG since 2011. He just got reelected in November, so
Oh, he
I don't
just
know
got
why.
reelected. Oh, okay.
Yeah, so I don't know why it was like that. Yeah, attorney generals and governors serve 4-year terms, and they run in non-presidential years. So he just got
Oh,
reelected.
okay.
Interesting little fact. I know some people in the chat hate politics, but he's a Republican, and Alex Murdaugh was the chair of the South Carolina Democratic Party at one time,
Oh,
as
shit.
well as the South Carolina trial lawyers, which are, usually Democrats. But what was missing for me in that was I
Oh,
didn't
wait.
get enough, and it was
About
about
the victims. Yeah.
bravado and backslapping each other.
Hmm.
Notably absent, I can say this, was because it's different than my state. There was a big absence of females there, you guys.
Yeah. It was an old
I
boys
mean,
club.
so the witness, victim witness person was a woman, and then we saw the other female attorney that was always sitting behind the bench. But man, there wasn't enough for me for the victims. It was all about how hard they worked, and it's really sad to me. Like I heard B Tim say that it seemed a little bit early. It's not early because when you win, whether you're the prosecutor, defendant, plaintiff, or defendant, you don't ever talk about appeal right after the victory. You use it as your time to you use it as a platform. So they're not going to wait till after the appeals. But I thought that it would have been a more respectful way to do it, to handle it all tomorrow after the sentencing
Mhm.
and the witnesses, because this is, and I know Voices has a lot of experience with this as well. You got to imagine that Alex's family, you have the living and the dead, and the living were in that courtroom, and those are
Yep.
victims. And so, for Buster, is he gonna, what is he gonna have to
He
say?
lost everything today.
Is, his sister that's been there every single day, what is she gonna say? His brother, John Marvin, what's he gonna say? And notably absent, Randy was absent from the courtroom quite a bit and was absent again today. What does he say, or does he not say anything because of the position with where the law firm is at? But it's just it's going to be a really awkward thing. Is Marion, Maggie's sister, is she going to testify? And I know that Maggie's parents aren't doing very well, health wise. So, I mean, I hope it's just those victims and they don't bleed this into, Mallory Beach and the Satterfields and all that, because Paul was a victim here. So when you start bringing in all these other people like they did for the trial, um, we lose sight of this was a criminal trial for murders. And these people were, the AG said, brutally slaughtered. No, their heads were blown off. I mean, that's the reality of it. And it was brutal. What was done and how it was done was brutal by someone that they loved and should have protected them, and they should have never had to fear. So tonight's going to be a long night for a lot of people. And in my state, we don't do sentencing like this. In my state, there's about 3 to 4 weeks where, you go through a process of, doing your background and, scoring factors and those types of things. So I get that the AG worked hard on it, but you know what? They're paid to work hard on it. And that's their job. And, they did, a job that convinced a jury, but like, let's not lose sight of who these victims are.
Yeah. Like that Buster, his father was accused of murdering his mother and
Well,
brother.
now he's been found guilty of it, and now Buster has lost everything.
Yeah.
He's lost his mother, his father, his brother, the
His
housekeeper,
grandfather.
his grandfather. Yep. I mean, like his financial means, his home. I mean, think about it. That kid, and he didn't sign up for any of it.
Well, and he got kicked out of law school for cheating, and I'm not okay with
Plagiarizing,
that.
yeah.
I'm not shaming him on that at all. I'm saying that when you grow up, and I grew up with a lot of wealthy kids. I wasn't, but privileged kids that when they're treated and they have a lot of those privileges, and there's no boundaries, and there's really no right or wrong, and you do anything kind of to get ahead. And the plagiarism could have been lifting in law school. It could be lifting a whole paper, or it could be, just lifting portions. Either way, that's like a major embarrassment and shame. And Alec was probably, ashamed, and he paid like 60 grand to get him back in law school. And Buster said, I'm not going. He should be back in law school right now. And he said, no, I'm not going. And I've heard a couple jailhouse calls too, where his dad kind of pushed him. And I don't think he wants to be a lawyer. And I think he should have time to grieve and try to figure it out. And God bless him. I hope he doesn't get involved in addiction and, some of those things. But that's a hell of a lot of trauma in a very short life for that boy.
It is. And that's what I was going to say. And I hope that it's a little bit, as hard as this sounds to come out of anyone's mouth, I hope it's a little bit of a relief for him, so that he can move on with who he wants to be.
That actually is nice. And I do get the sense, that both Paul and Buster had really good relationships with John Marvin, who's not a lawyer.
Yes.
So.
Yeah. Interesting.
It's heavy. It captivated the nation and YouTube for the last 6 weeks. Let's hope that whatever the corruption and the shenanigans that have gone on, and that,
Well, we'll wait for the Jared trial when Jared goes for trial.
Yeah, that victimized a lot of, people. Let's hope that low country changes around a little bit. And they understand that it's, not privilege and wealth and lawyers and judges. We're not above the law. So, and it kind of seems like it was the wild, wild low country down there where a lot of everything went. And hopefully it's a new day as far as that goes, because
they got away with everything over there. They got away with everything down there.
Yeah.
Hopefully the people can take their town back, if you know what I mean. It's their town, not the Murdaws.
Well, one of the weird things to me was not in the murder, but just in the overall of that low country. So South Carolina has a law, like we talk about venue, which is where do you sue, right? When something happens to you. And South Carolina, I'm like, why is this law firm in this little place and these $1 million, like always $1 million settlements and multi-million dollars, and they're getting all the cases. And it's because the laws there let you sue wherever you want. So you go to a lawyer, right?
Wait, what?
A lawyer who has good results, and they're all in that area, in that law firm, which is kind of crazy to me.
What do you mean sue wherever they want? I don't understand.
They can sue. So you can be injured. You live in New York, let's just say, right?
Yeah.
You live in New York. So if you're injured in New York City, you'd have to sue in New York City.
Yeah, of course.
In New York, right? The county there.
Yeah.
If you're injured, in somewhere, what is it? The Hamptons, somewhere northern, in northern New York, you can't sue in New York City. You have to sue where the injury occurred.
Yeah.
In South Carolina, you can pick where you sue.
What?
So
Really?
yeah, that's why. Yeah. Because I'm listening to these attorneys and talking to my colleagues. I mean, we get multi-million-dollar verdicts here, but like
Couldn't you
that
jury
whole
shop?
law firm had everybody there was making multi-million-dollar verdicts.
Couldn't you like jury shop like if you wanted
Yeah,
to?
we call it forum shopping.
Yeah, like this like in the Bronx, I've heard from like a lot of attorneys like, juries there don't like landlords basically. And so if you have like a trip and fall case, you'd want the case to be in the Bronx with a jury there. And obviously Manhattan's a lot different. So
Yeah,
it's
but you still have to like argue in those states to
yeah,
get that. Like
obviously.
you have to like that it's more convenience. The witnesses are here. They have business and transact business here. I mean, there's ways to do it, but like for low country and the way they talk about it and the research I just did on the area is like, I didn't know that a lot of it, was the bootlegging of alcohol and marijuana and drugs and
He
then
used to
these
make
lawyers.
all that moonshine. The grandfather, he used to get paid in moonshine. I was watching a thing today.
Yeah.
They arrested the sheriff. He got away with it. But they arrested the sheriff in the next county over.
Yeah,
Sounds like they've
where,
really advanced with the times.
so then you get a bank in there, right? So that's where I'm saying there's a big missing piece here because so then if you're going to make all the money running running the liquor, running the the weed, running the pills, right? And they had a jellyfish operation there at one point, which was a cover for money laundering in those island areas where Alec owns property with the person that was doing some of these things. Is like you got to have a bank involved, right? So there's no way that there's something more going on. And if you're going to do this, you got to have law enforcement involved, right? I mean, it just goes way deeper.
Lady Justice, did you see the documentary with the Smith kid that got supposedly hit by a car?
Yeah, I don't think it's appropriate to discuss that. I'm not gonna
No, I'm just saying they're bringing that back up. They're
but I don't think that's connected at all. I don't think it's connected to Murdoch at all. Honestly, I think.
Well, they said in the chat, someone said in the chat, due to something they found during this investigation and trial.
Correct.
Yeah.
So they pulled they had the phones and the extractions. Have everything in Maggie's and Paul's that wasn't overwritten. So like, what was there? And Alex, and he seems like, I don't think he is cocky and arrogant, but he doesn't show the cocky part. He hides the cocky part with his, Southern charm kind of thing and fast talking. But like, so giving him his phone, right? You can look and see what's going on. And I know lawyers, a lot of lawyers, you guys, that are into this, like the money and the pills. It's crazy. There's a lot of lawyers that it's pills or cocaine or, they're not really into
lawyers
the
and
meth.
pills. I've heard that.
And
Yeah.
Oh yeah, and it's easy. Hold on, Seasons. You want to come back up, baby? You want your camera on? I pulled you up here and didn't realize it. I know you go on camera a lot. How are you, babe? Hey, love. Oh, you're mute.
Hi, guys.
Hi, can you?
Yeah, and
so then what
no,
happens
go ahead.
is,
that was an excellent point. I was just trying to like not interrupt.
okay.
Like it's
So
showing up
the
abruptly.
lawyers.
So I just want to hear the panel guest out because that's great. So I'm
So the
here,
lawyers,
but
a lot of the lawyers that I deal with, I have to say, and I don't mean to be sexist on this at all. I just don't know a lot of women that were like into, it's not like they're not into, it's either alcohol, cocaine, or, opioids. I mean, and a lot of the guys that I know that are in it are really ADHD. And then when they get going big into the pills, you can't tell what's going on because they're kind of all over the place. But like
Right.
him with his addiction and, take a look at my phone, like that all makes sense to me to somebody that's pilling because they don't ever know they don't ever have a full concept of what's going on. But somewhere they downloaded, something about that Smith.
Yeah.
And I mean, I think I've heard that, his brother Randy showed up on the scene there. I mean, I know that they blamed it on the Murdaugh boys and, and all that. And, that's a life that was taken. Just, like Satterfield is kind of, is really weird to me, but
Yeah.
maybe maybe Satterfield was like the beginning of the big, like, I'm going to buy insurance and score off my own insurance.
That's what he did. Yeah.
He bought that insurance that he collected on. I don't know if people know this, but he bought it a month before before the accident. That to me, like, should be a red flag.
And kept it all. Right?
Yeah.
He kept it all.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And, like,
So
those poor kids, they like said, like, oh yeah, he like kind of kept them like, oh yeah, it's coming, and that's what you
And
do to
has
other
anyone
people.
up here ever tripped on the stairs and fell backwards?
Mm-mm.
No.
No.
Me either. Okay.
I have wooden
I
stairs
would
where
fall
my feet come out from
downward.
underneath me.
well, and
my
he
aunt
said
did.
that
She broke her hip. She fell. I mean, she tripped up the steps and fell backwards and broke her hip and her femur and all that. So it can
well, she
happen.
had a head injury, and she had a head injury that was bad enough that she was bleeding out her ears.
Mm-hmm.
So, and which is what she ultimately
Yeah.
died of.
Sounds like a push, if you ask me. But
Well, and they said that the only thing that she could say is her kids said, or her siblings, not the boys, said all she could really ever say is "I love you." She could never say what happened. She could just say "I love you." And so who knows? But the timing
I
is
know.
a month before, and you
And him
buy.
keeping that money, and yep, there's a lot of
And he
like,
bought that huge umbrella policy. And then you go to your boat boating and drinking is so dangerous, and so many things happen. I mean, not that it's any different than a car, but people just take it for granted. But like, to not have boat insurance, and you bought a commercial policy, and you ain't doing anything commercial with your boat, like,
Yep.
what was he thinking? Just nobody would question it, and he could get it through. It just doesn't make any
It's
sense.
just like someone in New York buys gets insurance from Florida, and then they get into an accident, and then the insurance just claims them, and they're fucked. It's the same thing.
There's so much stuff that happens on the water people don't realize. Like, people think just because you're on the water that you can drink and drive a boat. It's not like drinking and driving on the road. It is.
he was
so
acting
many-
like a jerk that night too,
But
and
see,
you're not on flat land. If you do fall out, you're not on flat land, and you panic and you're drunk. It's horrible.
Ugh.
The thing, though, that was kind of another fact that kind of came out on that whole boat in the Mallory beaches is when they were at that oyster roast first, that John Marvin was there.
I heard that. I heard Maggie was there as like a rumor, but I
Well,
never heard John Marvin.
He talked to his mom at like midnight that night. So like, that's where they tried to get her, because she talked to him. Still, the only theory that they could, like, being negligent parents, there is kind of a cause of action, but he was an adult. You're an adult at 18. So there was no theory there. The only one they could have got was, using someone else's ID to buy. He didn't
His brothers.
drink it.
Well,
He
that's
didn't
what.
drink it. And he didn't go to the bar, and, the party store should have been on the hook. So how they got Buster was an overreach. I never would have settled that. I would
From
have
the
taken
license.
that. Yeah, but I
right?
would have taken that on a motion for summary disposition to get it dismissed. The negligent parenting, I would have done the same thing. Alec would still be in, though, because he owned the boat. So
Got
it's his property. It's like if
But
somebody
Buster would
took
be
your
out.
car, but still you would have to link him to the money part, which takes me back to what I had kind of started on. These millions and millions of dollars, like 30-40 million dollars, like in that area, which, like, the median income is what, like 30-40 grand.
Yeah, that's a lot.
So for like Tinsley to ask for that kind of money, and I'm not saying a life isn't valuable, right? But like, it just seems like very, very far-fetched. And geez, karma has a way, doesn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, to come back on Alec after he stole all that money from the $1 million he got fraudulently on the Satterfield case. But even that one, Mark Bland got way more than the Satterfield settlement, you guys. He got like $5 or $6 million more because they made an insurance claim.
question, Lady Justice. If Bus gave Pawpaw, I hate saying that.
Bus gave Pawpaw. Holy shit.
His ID, right? Willingly. If
Go
he
ahead,
gave, no, you're good. If Bus gave Paul the ID willingly, right? He
Yep.
should be, in my opinion, I don't know if it's right, but he should be at least somewhat held responsible for giving someone underage an ID to get, alcohol.
And I don't know, like that state, if they have comparative negligence or if there's any fault at all, you're 100% on the hook. In some states, it's comparative. So if you think that him giving the ID was only, 10% of the big equation, like the jury would decide that. I don't think a jury would find that was a major part. And given the ages, like, did he give Paul the ID, or did he have two IDs, which was common when I was in college in the olden
Or did he
days?
take Buster's ID without him even knowing? You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Or
yeah.
pictures
Well,
of him and have them made, because that can happen too.
I don't think you can do it in most states now, but like back in the day when I was young, you could get like two IDs, right? And you had your regular one, and you'd give your other one to a sister or something like that, right?
Right.
Or
Yes.
you'd have your friend would have two, or your sister's friend. So I don't think you can do it like that in most states anymore. But either way, he did not consume the alcohol. So let's say beat him, he gave him the ID and he was sitting around in the backyard drinking. Like, did he know that he was going to go give him the ID, know that they were going to go out on the boat drinking with other minors? Do you see what I'm saying? I don't. So I don't know, but
Because I have a friend in Florida that had an ID and a license, right? He gave his ID to his younger brother, and his younger brother would use that to buy alcohol nonstop. And then he got into an accident and almost killed somebody.
Oh shit.
And him and his brother both got in trouble.
Yeah, same kind of thing.
yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think the whole thing is tragic, and I think that it really comes
It
from
really is. Mhm.
when you come from a rich, powerful family, and that's what it was. I mean, he was born into it.
Yep.
Is certain things are taken for granted, and life was one of them that was taken for granted. I mean, we heard testimony about how reckless they were with the guns, and I mean, he'd
On
go
that
and
boat.
both boys, yeah, and guns would be in their trucks when they'd go to parties, and I
They'd
will
lose
say,
guns.
and the drinking was a family affair. I mean, they're at
Mhm.
games when this little Paul was less than 18 and going to these football games and basketball games, college, living your college days still in your 40s and 50s, and having your, young kids do Jello shots. I mean, I drank before I was 21. Heck yeah, but I sure as hell never furnished that stuff to my kids.
Yeah.
And after the accident, Paul was continuing to partying with his friends. They show pictures of it in the documentary, the Jello shot thing you just said and whatnot. So at the house, so Alex was still letting them party at the house after their boating accident.
Well, yeah, and Tinsley, that's why Tinsley got a hold of the attorney for Mallory Beach's family, got a hold of all those videos from an old girlfriend of Paul's, and that's what upped the ante on the case. But still, if it didn't happen that night, that doesn't mean, and they didn't know about it, that didn't put them on the hook. And again, like, if you're gonna, it's just so hard. And you guys, I see some really nasty stuff in my job.
I
but
bet.
Like,
Yeah.
so hard to believe. Like, so what, Alex? Let them take everything you have. Start over. He could have taken cases in the law firm and not put them under his name and just worked them, right? Let it go by, pay off, come up with some figure to pay these people and move on.
Yeah.
I mean, this was about money. Like Maggie said, I'm willing, they want 30 million and I'm willing to start over, but he's not, right? It's just so bizarre to me. And that's why I still feel like part of the pill theories that went on about Maggie and finding the pills. Satterfield supposedly found pills taped under the bed. Okay.
No, that was the what's it called? The woman that slipped on the stairs. She found them taped underneath the bed.
Yeah, that's
And she was
Satterfield.
scared to tell Maggie about it, so she told Paul.
Yeah, that's Gloria
Right.
Satterfield, the maid.
Yep.
Yep.
Yeah. So
There.
Satterfield finds the pills. Then the addiction continues, and we all know like addictions, especially with opioids, just increase. So what happens then is in May, and was May 6th or May 8th or something, in early May, Paul texts his dad and says, Mom found bags of pills in your computer bag or whatever it was, right? So they're on to him again, and and they both are home that day, and we know, that night, the night of the killings, and Alec had some other stuff. He says he had pills in his pocket as he was sitting in there, in the sled vehicle. Was there an argument about his missing drugs? Did Paul or Maggie, when they went back to the house, find his pills again, or did they confront him about what they found?
Good point.
Because he could not talk about anything that was discussed at dinner. He said I was riding around with Paul or whatever. And what just talk about with Maggie, he could not say what they discussed. But if he went to go get his pills, right, and he can't find his pills, or he was confronted about him again, addicts will do anything if you get in between them and their drug or whatever their substance of addiction is. So I don't know. And like turning his body over, saying he checked their pulse. Why would you lie about that? Except maybe he did, right? Because he touched the phone. So he had to have showered, right? Or done something. So why did you take him by the belt loop and try to turn him over, and you take his phone, or his phone popped out, and then you put it squarely on his butt, is what, the testimony was. Why would you be checking his pockets? Were you looking for your pills? I don't know. I just none of this, so you were looking for your pills, and then you got the bag out of your baggie of pills out of Paul's pocket, because Paul was supposedly doing some of that now, experimenting with it as well. Did you take that and that's what was in your pocket? I don't know, but it just is kind of like it was, the perfect storm. There was more. I think there's more than what we heard, but he could not talk about what was happening.
I could see him going to look for his stuff, right? And they're not there. And he drives his ass angrily, because he's maybe detoxing or needs his stuff. You know what I mean? Drives out there angrily and see something like that. I don't know if Paul had him in his pocket or anything like that, but I could see what you're saying there with, him getting angry, not finding his stuff, and then it just popped off.
Well, and the other thing was, and that's where I thought there was something else that we didn't know, is because when Maggie found the pills in his computer bag with Paul, so what did she do with them? Did she throw them away? So was he dealing? And so now he owed somebody for those? You know what I mean? There's so many things that we don't know. They were at the softball game the weekend before, and he's in the room and he's sweating like a pig. Now, granted, he was bigger, but he was also using opiates. Was he withdrawing or detoxing himself?
It's hard to know, because he said he detoxed so many times, and it's hard to believe what to trust, what not to trust.
He looks mighty healthy for someone who's taken $50,000 worth of pills.
Well, when I heard that testimony, I'll tell you what I thought. In the slime bag of all of this, and the amount of money that law firm was bringing in, Poot brought that up in the Good Morning America or something, right after he tried to have himself killed. Guys, I thought by him coming out and saying my client's an opioid addict and he's this and that, and then you're saying he's doing $50,000 a week. That's laundering, number one. But number two, what are you trying to do? Set this up for some kind of action? Because plaintiffs' lawyers make a ton of money on this, you guys.
Yeah.
A lawsuit against the opioid manufacturers. It was just weird. It's just all too weird.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure the appeals process will work. Well, he'll try to appeal. Might not work, and I'm sure there'll be a bunch of documentaries about it. And
Paul's toxicology came back clean also for no drugs.
What's that?
Paul's some in the chat said that the screening came back. I think it was Stereophonic's mom that there was nothing in his system drug wise.
Huh.
For Paul.
Well,
Yeah, Seasons. Are you up here, Seasons?
I think the interesting thing that we don't know, and we'll probably never know, but knowing some slime bag lawyers, right, is I wonder what the agreement was between Griffin and Poot on representing him. Are you representing him on the murders and all the financial crimes? And in our agreements, like you would have to say, does that include an appeal? Because they got $800,000.
Because Poot's been around for a while. He was Paul's attorney for
Right.
Mallory Beach. Mhm.
Yeah, and I wonder how the taxpayers in South Carolina like having somebody that's an elected state senator not show up
Yeah.
to the job for 6
For
to
6
8
weeks. Yeah. Everybody was saying that. How is, I mean, he was like, sometimes he was like missing from the courtroom. Like he was, wandering.
Yeah, so I don't, well, that, and I thought was really tacky. And it just reminds me as an attorney in any kind of proceeding is the amount of time that Poot was on his cell phone and, what's his name? The AG, the guy from the AG's Creighton, how they were on their phones all the time, like reading messages. I know what you do on your phone, but you don't do it when you're sitting at counsel table and there's witnesses in the middle of a murder trial. Like, I was shocked by that.
Well, yeah, and I think they said Paul found his pills and said, "Hey, mom found pills. We gotta talk," or something like that. Or mom found your pills and we gotta talk.
Yeah.
So he knew what was going on. Seasons, you want to come back up here and chit chat for a minute? Heels have to pull this clip real quick. It's the I think it's the rebuttal or something like that. I'm not sure what she wants. She wanted me to play it real fast though. There was something on here. So give me 1 sec, you guys. Seasons, you want to come up here and you want to come
say
up
something.
real
Yeah,
quick before we play this clip?
Yeah, I think Seasons wants to say something. That's why.
Yeah, that's why I didn't want to play this clip till we got her up here. I wanted to make sure. I want to hear what she's got to say. I know she's come up twice, so I wanted to get her up here. You know what I mean? Get her up here, and I wanted to see what she's got to add to this. This is interesting to me. You know what I mean? I like to hear people's opinions. Lady Justice.
She says no, baby, maybe tomorrow, hon. Okay.
Oh, okay. All right, love. Well, I'm sorry we didn't get up here soon enough. You have to come up and bust us over. You have to just be like, shut up, because we'll talk all fucking night long.
Yeah, definitely. That's why
that's just how we are, you know.
Even like
scoot over.
Even Ellie's dog growls at me sometimes when I keep on talking.
So I thought that this rebuttal was awesome, and this attorney drove me crazy with his lack of boundaries. But I thought he kind of hit it a little bit. He went a couple times a little cringe, a little farther than I was comfortable with. But I think he brought it home.
It's the rebuttal for the. It's the rebuttal.
And it's called life. It's called living. It's called experiences. It's called interacting with your spouse, your children, your neighbors, your coworkers, your good experiences, your bad experiences, evaluating people and deciding what's credible, what's believable. It's true in every case I've ever tried in my 34 years of doing nothing but murder cases. Credibility, believability. And I agree with Mr. Griffin. When I looked at this case the first time, I said to myself, this is a CSC case. Now, in our world, that means criminal sexual conduct. It's not a criminal sexual conduct case. This is a common sense case. And you didn't leave that common sense with you when you came here 6 weeks ago. It's with you now. It's been with you during the 6 weeks here, and you're going to take it back into the jury room. I've been listening yesterday and today, and we all have, about law enforcement didn't do this, law enforcement didn't do that. I think they actually said they fabricated evidence. Putting law enforcement on trial. I once called Mr. Harpootlian in a trial an automatic smoke screen machine. I think what the defense is doing in this case is more like an eclipse. You remember that eclipse on August 17th of 2017, where it kind of got dark for a little bit, and the birds started chirping, and you felt like it was dark, and then it cleared, the eclipse went over, and the light came back. That's what the defense is doing, taking you away from the facts from the credibility and saying, wait a minute, there's eclipse here, there's a smoke screen here. Look at that. And somebody said the word offensive. I find it offensive that a family with a great-grandfather, a grandfather, a father, Sylvester Randolph Murdaugh, who was good to me when I was a young man prosecutor. He knew I wanted to do this as my job. He knew I cared about this job. This is the best job in the world. I tried to be solicitor 3 times as long. It doesn't get any better than this job. And I find it offensive that the defense, through the defendant, who was also a part-time solicitor, is claiming that law enforcement didn't do their job. Listen to me, please. Didn't do their job while he is withholding and obstructing justice by not saying, I was down at the kennels. I was down at the kennels. I was down at the kennels. And he's going to blame everybody else. Is that offensive? Is that offensive? Mr. Griffin said a minute ago, can you imagine coming up on the scene and seeing, can you imagine not telling law enforcement, lying that I was down there and I saw him? I was right there. Why wouldn't you tell them that? Maybe get some more evidence. Did you hear somebody? No, I wasn't even down there. Credibility, believability. That really does sum it up. You remember 6 weeks ago today when Mr. Waters' fantastic opening and talked about direct evidence. And direct evidence is something you know it when you see it. It's evidence you gather with one of your senses. You hear it, you feel it, you smell it, you touch it, and you come in here and tell witnesses, hey, this is what I heard, what I felt, what I smelled, what I touched. But you remember when he was describing circumstantial evidence? There was a storm that day coming. Part of his theme, the storm just happened to come. And you could hear it coming. And then during part of his opening, you remember it started raining? You could hear it. You could feel it. It's almost like circumstantial evidence morphed into direct evidence. And that's what happened in this case. Circumstantial evidence became direct evidence in many instances. This case is about 2 things. It's about being real, and choices. My mama gave me a book when I was a little boy about the Velveteen Rabbit. It's actually going off to college. Dealing with people and learning about people and tough times in life. Don't get the Velveteen Rabbit and read it if you haven't read it. But you just put in the front of that book.
That strolling back and forth has me like, damn, sit the fuck down for a minute.
You got me
Take a
dizzy.
seat.
Yeah, I kind of feel bad for that court reporter there who has to deal with that. It's like, okay.
But him moving like that keeps the jury engaged. And in some courtrooms, the judges will not let you, particularly federal court, you're not allowed to go from behind the podium.
Yeah, I don't know too much about that, but I'll take your word for it. That makes sense. So at least I just, yeah.
I don't remember seeing this guy once until now.
So he was the one that was getting into the witnesses' space and touching like witnesses.
Oh, really?
And, yeah, like he was right up there between the siding of the doorway and the chair and actually like touched a few witnesses. Yeah, people were like kind of not liking that. But this is what I'm going to say, like, because it stopped at a good part. Do you see where the way that he presented this with just like the kennel and what happened that night, we didn't need, the jury, in my opinion, did not need all the evidence of the financial crimes and what was happening with all of that. They could have got him on just sticking to the story of what happened, like within that time frame right before the murders, that circumstantial pieces of it, and the financial was just like all piling on, and showed his bad character, right? So that's why he said, I got to take the stand because you let all this in to explain things, which was also BS because we know what he really had to explain was he was at the kennel.
Oh, so that's why he just simply took the stand because he knew he had to re-explain why he was at the kennel. Okay,
But he tried to create, his attorney, Poot, argued, because you let all this financial stuff in, he feels like he's compelled to have to testify to explain, right? That's what his lawyer said. But then when he got on the stand, one of the first things he said was, I lied, and I lied about being down there. And, you know, he could never really say why he lied, but we didn't need to get into all that financial. But Poot protected the record, saying, you let all this financial in, so he needs to get in and explain. And he kept saying, I stole, and I'm sorry, and I'm sorry, and I'm sorry. Well, that was days of testimony, right? Days, weeks, probably a couple weeks. But the reality is then Poot, you idiot, he gets on the stand, you get your client on the stand, and the first thing he says is why he lied about being down at the kennels and that he was there. Well, because he was caught.
Yep.
Yeah.
Is it kind of like Amber Heard with the one second, I apologize. Amber Heard and when she opened up the doors for, I think it was Johnny Depp's other wife, prior wife, that she said that he pushed down the stairs and that's why they were able to get her on the stand because she brought her up.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's where Tim, you asked me like about the reversible, you know, error and some of his biases is the judge was far reaching on quite a few of his, you opened the door. So this can come in. There were a couple of areas where the door was open, but even when the door's open slightly, you still have to, as a judge, make sure that you're doing the balancing. And I just think that there were several times that he went out of his way to say that the door was open.
Yeah. Let me see. It wasn't about that hour. Yeah. Do you think like I think Season says something about? Let me see. I think Season says these people were clearly sick of his old money nearly 100 years. Season says.
Yeah, hardworking people don't like old money and, you know, fame and wealthy lifestyles. And even if they like you as a person, when they're working hard every day, you know, just to make ends meet, and you take it for granted, or they think you take it for granted, they don't like that.
Yeah.
Tim, your chair doesn't like you, Tim.
Yeah, my chair does not like me. Maybe it's Murdoch's chair, you know.
Well, guys, I have to run up to the Family Dollar.
How's your grandmother doing?
Well, her EKG was all over the place. They took some blood, and we go back at 9 for a recheck. They started a new med, so maybe. But until then, we're playing back and forth between the doctor's office.
Yeah. Hopefully everything's good.
Prayers.
Yeah, I noticed that when shoot with Voices was live earlier, so like she said.
I'm sorry, you guys. I felt so bad, but
no, take your listen.
Totally, like that's all I got. That's all that's left.
Yeah,
so
no, of course, no. Take this much.
I'm gonna go up and get her some 7-Up and some. I'm gonna grab some.
I'm sure she's listening. I hope you feel better, ma'am.
Raviolis. I think she's in the other room, but I will be listening. So keep on keeping on and keep fighting the good fight. Lady Justice, thanks for your input. Thanks for coming up, and it was a pleasure as always.
Hey, good luck to you and your grandma tomorrow. Keep you in my thoughts and prayers.
Thank you, guys. I really appreciate it. I'll be listening, guys.
Yeah, and then I think Heels and Air says, so I think she said something. Well, I think she took it back. I'm not sure. Yeah, she was going to say something, but oh wait, it says the point of the financials IMO is how easily a pathological he lied to his victim's face.
Exactly.
True, but I mean, after you steal $1 million, like that's not enough. Is like, how much more does your mind get blown with 9 more million?
It's not just the money, though. It's the victims.
Yeah,
the victims themselves, who he stole from, was.
But here's the thing.
Awful.
It's unduly prejudicial in the case. You're holding his prior, and they're not even prior bad acts. And you heard the judge say, what can come in as prior bad acts? Okay. He didn't have any convictions of moral turpitude. He didn't have any. So you're using his bad acts to prove that he did this because he's a bad person. I get what Heels is saying, and I understand where she's coming from, but in the law, we protect from that because We want to deal with the facts and the evidence on the charges that are before the jury.
Yeah, a financial crime is completely different than murder. You know what I mean? Like, you know, if it was like, for instance, an example would be to bring that in. It was like, let's say he was being tried for other financial crimes, and maybe you bring that in as like his past history misdeeds type of deal. Not like, you know, maybe that's what you're getting at. I think I'm wrong.
But it went to motive.
Well, but they didn't use it for motive. They did not use it for motive. That's the thing. They said, just like how I said Poot said, oh, well, he had to get on the stand because you let all this financial in. But then he gets Alec up there, and that wasn't what he used. He needed to explain why he was at the kennel. So just like the prosecutor is trying to say, hey, well, we need this to show his motive was money. Well, no, because if you looked at what Adesto, the hunting lodge, and what he had coming in with cases that were active, he didn't have financial issues. Those were all like, you know, things that he had a lot of equity in.
Yeah. And by the way, hi Seasons. What did you want to say, Seasons?
I just want to say I'm completely surprised by the verdict. I feel that basically the state of South Carolina and are sick of their shit. Like, I mean, we're not talking decades. A decade's 10 years. We're talking centuries. We're talking great-great-grandfather, great-grandfather, grandfather, father, son.
90 years.
Next generation. And and there were some times where I even felt like, is the defense trying to lose? It was unbelievable. And today we expected Dick Putin, or everybody called him Putin, to come in with his, he's a shorter man, like with his trousers up to his, and a wedgie up his, and just come in with like, just badass, like no other, because he has been a badass on cross and everything else. And he doesn't even do the closing. You send a mumbling idiot. I have no idea who that attorney was. I mean, obviously, and he goes and he misspoke so many times. I'm like literally sitting there in my office. I have two screens at my desk. So I had one doing my work and one listening to it. And then my mom in her office, I had her up. But there was an echo. So I closed her door so we could both listen, and then we would reconvene during the breaks and talk about it. Like, what the hell? His defense attorney literally said this. This is pretty much verbatim. He said, I don't want you to think about like you could, the wrong question to ask yourself is, could he have killed or slaughtered? He used the term slaughtered his family in this several minutes. Yes, he said he could have. First of all, don't even put that seed in their head. He goes, but you're asking yourself the wrong question. You should ask yourself, could he have cleaned himself up for it? Could he have done this? Well, obviously the evidence shows the South Carolina police, he was in, the whole family, they had a search warrant. They didn't even search his house. They walked in and said, let me lay my badge on the table, and could you just show me around the place? And they didn't even deem it a crime scene. So even his own brother, John Mervyn, helped clean up his nephew's brains off that sidewalk. So, I mean, for the defense attorney, I'm sitting there and I'm looking at Alex, and I'm thinking, Alex is thinking I could have did a better job. And he probably could have, because this was terrible. And he was mumbling. And then at the end, the last, and I went back and we watched it like 3 times. I go, I like mom was on a call. I go, you didn't even see the ending, the conclusion, the last statement. She goes, I heard you go like, that's bullshit. Because he faked up not that he faked. Maybe he was in tears. I don't know. He said to the jury, he said, please don't make a tragic event even more traumatic by convicting an innocent man, which I get, but there was crying, and he's like, and my friend, you know, Alex and Maggie and Papa or whatever, and then he started, it's like, look, dude. And he starts naming them. It's like, this is not supposed to be about your personal relationship with these folks. This is supposed to be about the evidence and what's on the law, like what's legit and what's not. And when he did that, and that was his last statement, go back and watch the defense attorney's last 30 seconds. If you guys can clip it, I went back and watched it a couple times, and he starts crying and stuff. And it's like, so what? Are you just doing this because they're your friends and Papa was your friend?
I
and
mean, like, do you accept?
whatever. I mean, it was so lame, you know, and he was mumbling and he was not. What they should have did was said, he is such an addict. I mean, to the point of who can even survive this? I had a dental implant they gave me. I took one, and I thought my nieces, I have twin nieces, and they were living next door at my mom's house. I thought they were out, like, outside of the window at like 2 a.m. knocking on the door window. And I went and I like opened it, and they weren't there. They weren't calling for me, and I threw them out. I threw them down the toilet. This is 20 years ago. That was one they gave me. He's eating 100 pills a day. I'm not saying he's not, because he's really deep into his, you know, situation, and he's been on it 20 years, and he has the money and the whatever. Why didn't the defense bring up the fact that he was getting tight on money, and maybe it was somebody else? I just can't see this wimp. This guy is a complete spoiled brat from jump. I don't see him blowing his son's head off or his wife. He has the means, even in debt, to hire somebody. That's all I wanted to say. That's
what I thought
literally
too,
all I
because
wanted
they
to
use
say. I just want
gun.
to, I mean,
They're two
he's
different
going to
guns. What do you
do
think about
life
that?
just on the financial shit. So either way, he's going away. The guy is a pathological liar, and he's got other, you know, his other, you know, the addiction issues or whatever. But that does not make a killer. I just feel like his defense team, when that guy who gave the closing arguments in his last sentence and he started crying, it was like, so are you doing this because you believe he's innocent? Or are you doing this because this is your buddy? You know what I mean? Like, it just threw everything off for me. I still thought it'd be a hung jury, 100. How you even convict him of the, you know, there's 2 murders, and then 2 charges for in possession of a weapon during the commission of a murder. They never found the weapon. They've never found the weapon that was used in the murders. So I don't know what.
You didn't
And
find
then when
either
I
gun,
was
did
watching
they?
you guys
There
and
was 2
gals,
separate guns. They didn't find either one, did they?
Nope.
no. And then when I was watching
Oh.
you guys, you know, just, you know, through the last hour or so, and the South Carolina, you know, state's attorney shows up or whatever, and they're doing this whole political, you know, rah 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 rah. I mean, and the other thing is, they got rid of a juror this morning, brought one in. I mean, you also have to wonder, did they just do, I mean, this family is so deep, they are so corrupt. Did they even have to, because he has appeal issues up the ass. I mean, appeal issues up the ass. The day of the verdict, they get rid of a juror, right? You just have to, like, the whole thing is questionable. Literally, the whole thing is questionable, in my opinion. That's literally what I want to say, like, vent it. I mean, I've been talking to my mom about her or whatever, but I just wanted to talk to you guys too. I can't see chat. I don't know who's agreeing or disagreeing or like just get rid of her. I can't see anything. Um, but I love you guys. Thanks for
No,
having me up.
hey, Seasons, you're right. You're spot on some of the same observations that I had. First of all, did we hear anywhere about the fact that we had the Snapchat that his son was on? So how did anyone even know that Maggie and Paul were there, right? Well, there was a Snapchat that tells where your location is. That wasn't brought up. The money issue, a couple of little facts is Parker, the partner that the law firm is now, it's called Parker Law Group. He's, the
They dropped
longest
the murder
shareholder
law.
there.
I
He
don't blame
never
them.
once said that's who
Right.
Alex go-to was. That and his dad. Somebody I saw you put up there in chat that, well, no, he didn't have money because his mom was still alive. Well, the way it works when you're super wealthy is the mom and the dad both have trust because you can't pass all that money without having to pay Uncle Sam. So,
Right, they'll take
and they own,
everything you ever earned for.
yeah, and
that's what
they,
they do. The state does that. I know that.
right. And
Yeah.
so but somebody in chat said, well, no, the mom was still alive. That's not the way it works with trust. You separate and would have two separate trusts so
Mhm.
that and when you're that wealthy that the government doesn't get the
Wait, can I
piece.
just
So,
interject for a
yeah.
second? I think what was very unusual to me basically was he didn't have life insurance on Meg's and he didn't have life insurance on Paw. So, I mean, it wasn't like them dying there's 2 points here I want to make. So it's twofold where I would have had reasonable doubt and been the hung or the only one or whatever. Because, first of all, he did not have that. So that was not going to take him out of the millions of dollars took away or whatever from his clients. Yeah, is he a fucking pathologist? Well, he's also addicted to something, and them things go hand in hand. There's a lot of shame with it. There's just so much. So that's one thing. Secondly, on the closing arguments by the state, Prosecutor Waters kept bringing, and he put the timeline for the cell phone, and he kept bringing up that kid, Rowan or Roman or whatever,
Row.
Rogan or whatever,
Rogan.
that he called like 5 times before he even called. After he called before he called his brother, he called whomever in his
His
family.
own son.
Now, this was a young neighborhood kid who grew up. He would definitely know where the guns were. He could have been a drug dealer. He could have, now he's not going to get the money. The mom has now found the bag of pills. So is Paul. They've called him. They want to talk to the dad, Alec, or whatever. Maybe that guy did it. I'm not saying that kid did it. I'm just saying that the defense missed a major opportunity by not
Well,
putting that
Paul
out.
was sending him a
That
video of his dog. That's why he called
he
him.
would know his way in and out of those woods. He grew up there. He had handled those guns. They go hog hunting. He knew that kid was like their kid. You know what I mean? We all have kids. We're grown adults, right? So our kids have best friends, and a lot of them, they will stay at our houses and whatever. And that.
So you think Rogan did it?
And
You're
he
saying?
called him 5 times before
Because
he
of the video on his phone,
He
and he
could
knew
have
there was a
done it.
video on the
I'm
phone.
not even convinced Buster didn't do it, but I don't want to go there. But I just don't see that little wimpy geek blowing the head off. I just don't see.
Well,
He has the wherewithal, even at this point, to pay. He paid somebody to pretend to blow his head off. He has the wherewithal to blow off. He has so much. It doesn't matter if he's bankrupt. The power, the money. Did you see how big? And people all around. They were afraid of this family. It's a good one for the state. I feel like they handled it very tacky. That was very unclassy. They should have made it all about Meg and all about Paul tonight. Instead, they're like, and I'm the attorney general. And I know what they do. They take a lap. I mean, I worked in government for 20 years. I know what they do. And maybe that's why it's more like upsetting. Because when I was young, I just thought that was the way it should be. But you see a lot of like female politicians, they'll come up like what happened with Tyree or whatever, when that attorney general came forth and said about how they were firing all those officers in Memphis. She made it all about Tyree. It's just unusual. Like, I was ready for them to start like popping champagne bottles and stuff. It's like, can you guys take that sidebar? Like to your local bar, your your beautiful properties, like why are you doing this on live TV? You know what I mean? Because I literally do not think they really made their case, but according to the jury, they did, and I respect that. So, that's American politics. So that's it. What it is, it is. All right, you guys, thanks for having me up.
No
And listen, I'm sure Lady Luck has some rebuttal to what
Hey, no, I agree with a lot of what you
and
said,
so I'll
Seasons.
drop down and chat, and I'll hear her out. Okay. Nice meeting you, Lady Luck, and I love you all. I haven't seen you since
Thank you, Season.
Thanksgiving.
She's been talking
Well,
to you. Can you hear her?
I saw B Tim the other night, but I didn't see you, Queen. And everybody else. I love, and I think voices dropped off, but my love to her, Graham. Always, right?
Yes,
We're
and thank you
family.
for coming up.
All right, love you guys.
You have a good one.
All right, you guys too. I'll be listening. I'm dropping a chat. Okay. All right.
So, Seasons, I agree with a lot of what you're articulating. A lot of it, and I did see the end of that closing with Griffin crying and don't convict my friend. And I get the the political end, and I do feel like the defense, like if they were. It's hard to be critical of colleagues, but I don't know. So I'm going to just be objective. It kind of seemed to me like after he took the stand, and I don't believe I don't believe completely that they weren't discussing with him that he may need to take the stand. I don't believe that, and protected the record by saying what Poot said. But after the verdict and after they took Alec away tonight, even the shaking of hands and the kind of collegial things we do as attorneys, I saw Poot, it looked to me like more like kiss up, like politician-y type, which you do see because they want to be liked by, everybody. And with the work that he does, he's going to interface with the AG's office and all that. So there was a lot of disturbing things, and Seasons, you brought up, getting rid of a juror, which they knew more than what we knew. The attorneys were in chambers. They were in when the email came in a couple days prior.
But don't you think they moved her for a reason? Because they
didn't protect the record. And somebody in the chat, Queen, pinned it, was, what does it mean to protect the record? Well, it means that when the judge said everything he said, it was nothing they said was going to change the judge's decision to dismiss that juror. And I think he did the right thing by dismissing that juror. Okay. And I think he had a bias, so I'm not surprised at all that he did. But I think it was the right thing to do. But Poot said, Your Honor, we agree. There was a record and da-da-da-da-da. What Poot should have said, and Griffin just kind of sat there kind of fumbling. I was shocked. Your Honor, we don't believe that rises what was articulated in chambers, which is private and isn't privy to the open court. I mean, he shamed the hell out of that juror on the record, although he had to do that. But Poot did not say, we object to this. You asked, which I'm sure that, he did. Can you be, fair and impartial? What was discussed? Just that I'm on the jury? Well, we know because something leaked. I can't remember if I heard it last night or the night before, that when they were out, that there were was a juror that got into it with another juror and said that, well, he's not guilty. They haven't proven their case. Okay. And it's the one that was dismissed. So she also got into it with
Yeah.
another juror. They're back in chambers. They know
shouldn't have
what's
been
going
talking.
on. To have
Yeah.
a personality issue with another juror,
Yeah.
you know, that conversation couldn't have been with the juror that wasn't dismissed. It couldn't have been a one-way street with the one that was, who said, what caused her to say, well, you didn't prove that, you know, the AG hasn't proved the case.
Yeah.
I don't know. But the bottom line is Putin said that, yeah, we understand, we agree. I would have been screaming and yelling, screaming. I would have been in my fierce advocate voice saying everything and anything that I needed to say to protect the record, and that the juror was sworn to keep the oath. But, you asked in chambers, because usually the judge will ask some questions, and then in chambers, and then they'll look at both attorneys, right? Because there was a court reporter in there. I would have said, well, Your Honor, I think the question is, does this juror think that she can be fair and impartial and make a judgment based on the evidence that's come in at trial? Right? And that juror would have said, yes, that's the biggest thing. I mean, he didn't protect the record at all. So I just feel like they gave up, and I don't know at what point, but I do feel a lot like Seasons. I mean, there's many, and it's been over 6 weeks on top of me doing my regular, job. So what all the things are, I can't, remember them all off the top of my head. But when I'm listening and I'm interested in a case and it's the closing arguments, right? I told you I fell asleep during Griffin's.
It was so
boring.
hard to listen to him.
And then the end
Even
was
Creighton.
like so unprofessional.
Would you guys agree that I know
What's
you were
up,
saying
Steve?
something about the financials and stuff like that. I think that they were just simply trying to show nothing about the financials, that how he treated these people that he said he loved over and over again.
Yeah, it goes to his credit. I think Seasons jumped back up. What's up, Seasons?
Okay, the only thing I want to say about the juror is I felt it very offensive personally when the judge brought in, and he went through this whole diatribe about how he had these conversations with her, and that or him, or at that point we didn't know if it was a girl or a boy, and that they had violated, or he was unsure if they had violated the rules of the court. And then he brings her in and he thanks her for her time. I would have liked to see a statement made, like, in other words, every time you went for a break, every time you went for a break, every time you went to the or lunch break, I told you, don't discuss the case with others. I want to put her behind bars or contempted her or anything like this. However, he was like, okay, and then they go get the eggs and they all laugh, and the water bottle and her whatever, and bring it to her, and he goes, and I just want to thank you for the time that you've spent here or whatever. It's like, what? First of all, you've been warned every single break, every night, every lunch break, everything. Don't discuss the case with other people. Also, this is what we have, the concept, which we all know this is insane, when they go, oh, don't listen to anything on the news or on the internet, or shit's leaking through unless they're sequestered, which is stuff is still probably leaking through in this day and age. And he goes, but we're supposed to believe our people that are presumed innocent before guilty are like, they get this presumption of innocence and this fair and impartial jury, right? And he brings her up and he thanks her for basically not abiding his orders, going against due process, and going against a fair and impartial trial. I mean, are you kidding me? I'm not saying take her away or whatever, but I'm saying set an example. This is a double homicide murder. right? We're down to barely any jurors left. And you play this game where we don't even trust you no more. And you bring her up, say all this stuff that sounds serious, but when confronted with it, not I think the judge as well. He's mellow. He's a judge. Basically, a judge is like a mediator, right? So okay, he mediates well, but at the same point, the judge can say, let this be an example to anybody else. Know when you're on national fucking TV, let this be an example for anybody else. What we say is what we mean in our, judicials. This could have been such a lesson and said, no, thank you so much for the time. Do you need to get, you need to get your, okay, let's get the eggs. Ha, 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 ha. I mean, a man's life is hanging in balance. Whether he's guilty or not is irrelevant. It was absolutely weird. And it just was told me everything. And this is so unfair. It's so unfair. All right, I'm dropping down. I'm going to listen to Lady Justice because I'm sure she's going to rebut it. And
No,
I don't blame her.
Stay up.
Season,
So-
stay up here. She's been trying to talk to you. She can hear you. Stay up here.
Okay.
A couple of things is, first of all, judges call they call the balls and the strikes within the rules, right? Just like the balls and the strikes within the rules of baseball. However, judicial temperament and how they treat people is a big thing. And I get what you're saying, but to go and say, I'm going to make an example out of you, right? You can't do that. You can't even do that.
You are sworn in. She is.
I know, but you
every
can't even do
morning,
that.
Every time she goes to lunch, every break, whether it's a girl, boy, I don't care.
I agree.
Whether he's innocent or he is not. She violated her duties as a juror. And to be on national TV and just thank her, okay, we're going to dismiss you, but thank you so much.
The court is
He
polite.
should have educated.
They're
that
polite,
was a
though.
learning opportunity, a missed opportunity to educate the public. This is serious.
Well, I
Not
mean,
just for
let's say this, though.
man's life, but for the two
Seasons.
murder victims as well.
Do you
Give me a
think?
break.
I mean, do you think the judge? I mean, I don't know if the judge really cares about doing a teachable moment. I think he cares about just really doing the case.
They have a code of ethics that they have to follow, and it's really kind of different for judges even than attorneys. And the biggest one is treating everybody that comes before you with respect. And I know, because I know judges that could have thrown the book and whatever. But here's the thing: we don't know what was even said. We have no idea.
Exactly.
Was it close to the line or was it over the line? And the fact that he didn't hold her in contempt, because when you hold somebody in contempt, it didn't even have to be criminal because it did not happen in front of him.
Mm-hmm.
You can only be held in criminal contempt while violating the order, but it didn't happen in front of him. And he used the words when they interviewed people. What was the words? Maybe someone can bring it, but it was like they muddled it. Like it wasn't clear. Was the word I think he used was muddled it, which made me believe that there was this one said this and that one said that. And so it's somewhere in between. So we don't have her totally on this, but I'm not comfortable with this, right? Kind of thing. We don't know what she said or did, or what they say she said or did, because that was all done in chambers. So, truthfully, because the record was made with the court reporter in the back, my position is, I don't know why they had to come on the record, and whether you're on national TV or not doesn't matter to a judge. You're supposed to be operating your courtroom like it's just a courtroom, like every day. It doesn't matter if there's one person in there or 100 people in there, except for logistics, but he didn't even have to bring her out. I agree. I thought that the eggs and the whatever was distasteful, but I've been practicing for 33 years. I've never had anything like that happen. Okay. So that's again, if you think that jurors for 6 weeks, even if they were sequestered, don't talk about, oh, geez, did you see that chick? Or did you see that when he was on the stand or whatever? I don't, I'd love in a perfect world for them not to have conversations. Do they discuss in depth what happened? I don't believe that jurors do, for the most part. So did this juror just say, again, what prompted, whatever was said? And if another juror, 2 jurors were questioned and he used the word muddled. And I think the ex-husband calling and saying she was on a jury or something like that, didn't help anything. But I think that, the expectation of jurors, which make what, $15 a day and give up their careers and their lives. And like, what do you talk about? Just the weather? I mean, at certain times during that 6 weeks, I'm sure it was pretty taxing and pretty emotional and pretty aggravating and all of those things. But I personally still, again, don't agree with the judge. We don't know what was said, but it didn't matter what was said in chambers. I still would have made a good record of not excusing that juror. And maybe they didn't do it. Putin didn't do it because it was the lady that was plugging her ears and putting a blanket over her head. They
Yeah.
thought they had a better chance with her.
Oh.
I don't know, but the other thing I will say in listening to Seasons that I thought was really kind of, and watching the closings, is everybody go back to who watched the closings today, because I can't say it happened yesterday. I don't even know. I think I was just listening yesterday. But today I watched the last part of Griffin's, and I watched the first part, and Alec wasn't crying. He wasn't doing that bobbing of his head and his body that he does. There was no emotion, just like there was no emotion when the verdicts came down.
Yep.
None, which
He had a couple
I
of
thought was
facial
incredible.
expressions where he kind of like perched his lips kind of a little, where you could see him kind of like, it was like a disappointed look.
He looked pissed. He looked pissed to me.
Well, they're saying Court
He was kinda like,
TV
"Oh,
is
fuck."
saying that he looked back at his son Buster and told him, "I love you. It'll be okay."
Yeah, and I saw Buster wipe tears a couple times, and you saw that African American sheriff woman that was always with him getting out of the van. She went after the verdicts from where she was sitting to stand right behind
Right, I
him
saw that. There was
to
somebody on either
protect him.
side. Yeah.
They were protecting him from,
Mhm.
because he's a victim. They were protecting him from anyone, getting into his space.
Hmm.
And he was wiped tears a couple times, but I mean, imagine the burden or the heaviness of being a child that's brought up into this legacy kind of family. And yeah, it looks all great, but there was a lot of stuff that people didn't see on the outside. And
Mhm.
his girlfriend
Yeah.
is an attorney.
Oh, really?
She is an
Brooklyn?
attorney. They met in law school.
Oh,
So she
the
took
one.
the bar and passed last year, and she's working in a firm. And
Hmm.
so that's like, even the night of the murders, he didn't call Buster right away because, I mean, Buster was kicked out of law school at the time, trying to get back in, is fine, it sounds like, working at Buffalo Wild Wings. His dad tries to give him money in jail. Well, I'll borrow, $5,000 from John, Marvin, and, to give to you and pay him back. And Buster's like, no, I'm fine. I have like 2,000 in my bank account or whatever.
Oh, he was
But
in
he's
Vegas
working for his
gambling, though.
money.
Remember? He was in Vegas gambling.
Yeah, but I mean, he's still in those. That was some jailhouse calls. Have John Marvin pay for storage, because I don't want you to have to pay for it, which I think was of the household goods, because I want you to have money. And Buster, you could tell that his dad, like, you're going to borrow money from John Marvin and pay him back? Like, with what and how, kind of was the way that it was kind of passed off. But
Why do you
I
think they
don't
were
know.
all gambling together in Vegas?
Yeah, they were, but not in the jailhouse call.
No. The pictures of him,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Because he mentioned, hey, they got me pictures of me gambling and da, 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 you know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, but I thought, just, going back to Alec, I thought it was really weird during that whole closing, unless, I've never been in a situation. Was that the real come to Jesus? Was that you're sitting there feeling like you're going to puke? But they showed a picture of the crime scene that they had to get cleared. And remember, all the AGs got up and went and stood and looked at it before they started that closing argument. It was a graphic picture. And Alec's not crying? It was weird.
Yeah. He cried the whole case and then not the end. It was very weird to me.
These are pictures that were taken when the jury was out there.
Wow.
Yeah, it's weird. They videoed the whole thing.
Oh, you see the concrete?
Yeah.
I don't know if this one, I mean, there's a bunch of them together, so I like screenshot them, but this one looks like there's snow or something on the ground. Maybe it's just gravel or something. I don't know, but
they're like pine needles.
they were out there. There's a van and stuff, but there was a bunch of like cars and vehicles and stuff. But anyway, this is the house like yesterday when they went out there. Yesterday, I don't know. But here's
yesterday.
Here's some of the pictures or whatever. And then here's this one that we had up today. I'm like, oh, that's sad, man.
Yeah.
Very.
This is one of the holes from the bullets.
Yeah.
Wow, I didn't know about that.
Yeah, like the wealth of that family, like even that setup for that many dogs.
Yeah. And we had somebody that came out there and like cleaned them and fed them, He testified about it.
And everybody said that was Alec's voice on the Snapchat. That was another thing. Everybody
that's
said
why he
Alec
kind of
was
had to
Alec.
go up there and say it was him.
Yep.
Right? He had no choice. But I feel like if anything sunk him, that sunk him, that video,
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and go back and replay when he took the stand, what Poot said. Because you let all this financial in, and the first thing out of his mouth was he lied about being there.
Yep. And that just,
Do you think they failed him big time, huh?
Well, yeah,
his defense team.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
I guess the thing is like I'm just trying to say, like, it was so transparent, like what was happening, and then like, so you say all this financial stuff is there, so then they go through every single person that he stole from, and he says, yep, I did it, I was wrong, da 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 da. Well, somebody at one point, quite a few lawyers said, well, is this just the AG's strategy to make him take the stand so he admits to all the financial crimes?
Yeah.
I'm like, you're not very good lawyers, because guess what? The financial crimes, they already had everything. It's in the paperwork. It's in paperwork.
They have
that
indictments on all that.
It's not like he said, she said. They got the checks. They got the bank accounts.
The receipts.
They got the money being
It's
laundered.
like proven.
Yeah, all that stuff written to Eddie Smith, which, by the way, I did catch this little detail, which gave me, there's more to this going on, that they had him take the polygraph. There's allegedly, he did take a polygraph. Smith took a polygraph, and he failed the polygraph, and it was argued all out in open court. I watched the proceeding of it. But the attorney says when Poot says that he failed because he spiked and it showed deception, Smith's attorney said that's not what it shows. So I don't know what the deal is, but I thought that it was interesting that they kept threatening to bring him in, and they never did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wait, who?
They said he was going to be a mess.
Who failed the polygraph?
Cousin Eddie.
Oh.
Yeah. So, anyways, well, I got a full day. I got motions in court tomorrow. I'll be watching at some point. I'm interested to see how this sentencing goes. And
yeah.
Well, thank you for coming up.
Having this behind the family, I'm sure they love their dad, their brother, their uncle. I'm sure they love him, but this has got to be a relief not to have to deal with all of this
Craziness.
Yeah, and the not knowing, they now know it's been kind of resolved. He's not ever going to be out, and this is their life, and hopefully they can go start their, return to their lives, or move on with their lives and heal.
Yeah.
Hey, Avery. Thank you, Lady Justice, for coming
Love
up
you
and
all.
explaining it to us. Thank you.
Bye, Lady Justice.
Hey guys.
What's up, Avery? How are you, baby?
I'm good, but I'm pissed. I'm not happy with the verdict at all.
Oh,
Really?
Oh, shit.
Not at all.
oh no, what's happening?
Well, I feel like you can tell the jury until you're blue in the face that you cannot consider all of these other crimes that we're about to tell you that he's done and make him, well, he is the shittiest person for all the things that he did, but we're going to present all of this to you over and over and over again. But yet you cannot consider that, past motive. I don't feel that that was proof as being motive, because taking himself from the financial crimes and putting himself into a murder investigation doesn't really seem plausible to me. And then they never had anything that connected him to the actual crime. No murder weapon, nothing. They just had that video from beforehand that he lied about. And to me, that's scary. That's scary that you can be found guilty that fast and your whole life is gone. And he might be guilty, but I don't know. And so whatever happened to beyond a reasonable doubt, I mean, that's not beyond reason. I mean, beyond, what am I saying? B-Tim, you know what I'm saying?
Beyond a reasonable doubt.
Beyond reasonable. Okay. Yeah, I'm so mad. I've been flustered. And I feel like allowing those financial crimes in, it didn't have shit to do with motive. I mean, there wasn't even a life insurance policy on his wife or his son. It wasn't going to get him out of owing money for the boat wreck. Buster still settled on that. So how is it motive? Now,
Well-
whether he may have hired somebody to do it, and if they could have proved that he hired somebody to do it, then okay. Or, if they could have proved, somehow to put him at the crime scene. But
They
damn.
did. They proved him at the crime
Well,
scene.
he was at the crime scene. That's for
Well,
sure.
That's pretty 5 minutes before.
Yeah,
pretty much.
they proved he was there before and
They
lied
proved-
about it.
They proved
Yeah.
that he lied. His credibility was shocked. They proved opportunity, which
Yeah.
is the opportunity there. The motive is sketchy, but just like that girl says, you don't really need a motive to really convict someone.
Yeah.
And basically the weapon is iffy. I mean, like personally, I think it's the issue I think people have is they feel like would the jury have come back if he wasn't such a scumbag and they didn't let that in.
Allow
And-
those financial crimes. Yeah.
yeah,
Mhm.
I mean, and that's the main thing.
That's my point.
And that's the
is-
appeal issue right there.
Yeah, and that's
Yeah.
going to be a decision for an appeals judge.
Yeah.
And motions, and we can have our opinions, but most likely, I mean, honestly, probably due to his lawyer not really preserving the record, which was what Lady Justice was saying about the
Mhm.
juror not
Yeah.
preserving the record, not noting his objection to the jury. I think they're probably the appeals is not looking too good.
Yeah, that's what I'm afraid is that he's going to file an appeal. It's going to get rejected.
Well, you think he's innocent?
I don't know. See, that's the thing. And I don't think those jurors know that. And if you don't know, then you can't say guilty. And here, that's
well,
where
no,
I
I
stand.
mean, listen. I'm
Like
sorry to
right
interrupt you.
now, I do not know if he is guilty or not. I still do not know if he's guilty or not.
What percent? I guess this question goes to you. What percentage would you need to convict someone of murder out of 100?
100. I would need 100.
No, then that's impossible. You cannot.
So
do
that's
that.
not beyond a reasonable doubt. Like how
That's
would you describe
impossible.
beyond a reasonable doubt then?
Most jurors, it's like 90 or 80%. Honestly,
Mm-hmm.
there's always
Really?
you're not going to
That's
get
crazy.
100%. I mean, you can't unless the guy confesses.
Has to
and
be
you have to go-
reasonable.
There's
right?
no way you get 100% on a guy. There's absolutely no
Gosh.
way. Yeah, there's
And
no way.
Oh, I feel so bad
Steve
for
Johnson agrees. She didn't think
Ammunition
they
that was
proved it.
used is what they have in their house as well. The blackout 300s.
Hmm. And there was like a gun that wasn't ruled out.
I mean, like, you could argue that, like, there's a chance that the jury became biased because they said this guy's a piece of shit, and that would,
Mhm.
and you can argue about certain facts if you got to remove, but there's no way you get 100% because then no one would ever go to jail because you never know 100% someone has ever done something unless there's a recording of it, and there's like, and that's like really, really rare.
I think that's what bothers me because, okay, say you had this child and his financial crimes were not permitted into any of the testimony or evidence, period. There wasn't people out there talking about he stole from me while my dad was dying and my kid was dying. Like,
Yeah.
none of that. Take all of that out. Would you still think he was guilty? Or, I mean, what would you like?
I mean, then you would have to go to the reason of the thought process of he lied to the cops.
Yeah.
He was at the scene of the crime in the opportune time. So you'd have to think to yourself, okay, did the defense prove another theory that there was another person that did it? And did they actually prove like that alternate theory?
Mhm.
They didn't prove that alternate theory. I don't think they really. I'm not even 100% sure what they were talking about. I mean, like they didn't really present the possibility someone else did it. Also, when he was in that car, he didn't really do himself much service when he was being interviewed by cops, claiming that like the Black Panthers could have done it. You know what I mean? Like it reminds me of like in New York City, like in the old days when whenever you wanted to get away with a crime, you blame a black guy. It's like, oh yeah, the black guy over there did it with the white t-shirt.
And the body cam footage, Tim, right? When he's like right away, it's like it's got to be the people that don't like him about the boat accident, and just simply real quick, just simply him lying about not being there. If you're not guilty, you're not going to lie about that.
Yeah, and conscious bias says Google says 80% threshold for reasonable doubt. Yeah, with civil cases like 60 or 70. With criminal cases like 80, 90. 90 is pretty high.
Oh, jeez. I just don't think. I don't know. I just think I would have to have more evidence to send somebody away for life. I would have to have more. I'm just uncomfortable with it.
I mean, I don't know. That's impossible to do 100%. You just can't. You can't. Because he would never admit to the crime. No one would ever admit to the crime. There's nothing else that he would always have that 90 to 80% sure he didn't do it. I mean, but he had every opportunity to defend himself. Unfortunately, his best friend, the lawyer, didn't have to charge him $600,000 and didn't really do that much of a great defense for him, his best friend. Yeah. But and the truth of the matter is that he was afforded every opportunity to defend himself. He had more opportunities than a lot of other Americans. Name me one American that can pull out $600,000 to defend themselves in a criminal matter.
Right. Yeah, that's true.
The guy had his day in court. Unfortunately, he just did his defense team wasn't that good. And maybe you should have hired Lady Justice. I don't know. Maybe she would have. Sounds like she would have probably done a better job defending. Because she probably would have done like a significantly better job than defending him. To be honest with you, but unfortunately, didn't hire Lady Justice, and now he's going to have to pay hundreds of thousands of dollars to try to get an appeal, and he's probably going to go to jail for the rest of his life. Good riddance.
Do you have water on by any chance?
Oh, sorry. Huh? It's raining. It's raining.
Okay. You're still stealing someone's house in their backyard or something now?
Oh, no. You know what I did? There was like this other person who lived about 3 blocks away, and that house was nicer and they had a little farm. So I just took it.
Oh, good idea. Good. Because someone said, like Angie says, who's going to pay for his lawyer? And I just realized, you might have a good point. He might not have any money to pay for his appeals. Maybe they'll give him a discount since they're best friends. He was crying, they're best friends, those lawyers.
I'd give it to my son and just go away. He's going away for the rest of his life no matter what with the financials. Just give that to your son and don't appeal.
No, he's going to appeal.
I know, but I'm saying if I could just give it to his son.
You said just think of your son. He's accused of murdering one of his sons and his wife. I don't think he's thinking about his family.
And that's what's sad.
I mean, the guy murdered his family, so I don't think he gives two shits about his family if he did that.
You know, he
But
doesn't
what
give a
did
fuck
but
about Ghostbusters.
what did he benefit from killing them?
What did he
What
benefit?
yeah, what benefit came to him from killing them?
Well, real quick, Grandma Sherry's in the back.
Oh, Grandma Sherry, jump up, jump up. By the way, just I'm just running to the bathroom. Real quick,
And I'm
be right
sorry
back.
about the rain, you guys. I have to come outside to get a good signal, and it is raining. So if it bothers you, just let me know, and I'll jump back down. I just have been frustrated, and
No, they were just wondering in the chat if it was water.
oh, I can't even see the chat. I always forget to click that little button.
It's like I can't see the rain against my window. Missy Elliott. But yeah, I just feel like the financial thing, it wasn't really proven that because of the financial stuff he did is the reason why he allegedly, or now is convicted of it, obviously, murdering his wife and kid. It was just showing simply how he cares, supposedly cares about, he said, I love these people, I still care about them. He even said on the stand, I still care about them right now. And never made
Yeah, but
anything like fun of them.
But it was only supposed to be admitted in evidence as motive. And I don't see where it was motive, because I don't see where he benefited from it.
Well, I mean, like but just like that girl says, you don't really need motive. And the truth of the matter is that did the defense, like you watched the case. I'm trying to remember, what was the defense's actual defense? Did they claim that anyone else could have done it?
They were saying, two shooters. And then it also bothers me because when cousin Eddie initially took lie detector tests, a year and a half ago, and he was asked if he knew, or I can't remember exactly how it was worded, but if he knew anything about, the deaths of Maggie and Paul, and some other questions, and he failed every test.
You know
and then
what,
he brought that up.
Yeah, but you know how polygraphs are. It's based on if you're nervous or and stuff like that. That's why it's not really it's not admitted in court.
Yeah, I know it's pseudoscience, but still, it's.
at the end of the day, I think unfortunately his defense did not do a good job, and it looks like it. And he's going to have to either appeal, and maybe he'll get lucky, or he's going to jail for a while. I personally hope he goes to jail for a while, because I think he probably did it. I'm like 80% sure he did it.
Oh yeah, I'm like 95% sure he did it. I mean, did you guys hear any objection? I don't remember them saying objection like more than once or twice through this entire trial.
Yeah.
They just let it ride.
Now, do I think is there a possibility? Can you argue that did he pull the trigger? Did he hire someone? That's an argument I could believe in. Maybe he hired someone. Maybe he did pull the trigger.
He would have to be there though, right, Tim? Because of the
yeah, it could be.
That's what I would think, because I don't think if he couldn't shoot his dog, he had to call somebody over to put his
shoot
dog.
himself.
He could, yeah, and then he couldn't shoot himself. So I just, it's so.
It also explains maybe he doesn't want to say anything because he still has one family member still out there. So that's conspiracy theory, tinfoil hat theory. But the thing is that the guy is, I think he had something to do with the murder. Either way, I think it's good that he went to jail. I just like the reason why we kind of break down, like Lady Justice breaks down this case, and is because there's certain things you got to question if it should have been admitted or not. You know what I mean?
Right.
And it kind of goes for other cases. You don't want someone to get railroaded who's innocent because they're just a piece of shit. So I get that, and that's what she's trying to probably say. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Hiring that hitman supposedly to take him out, whatnot. That was just hiring a hitman to almost take him out. So it looked like there was somebody else out there going after his family. You know what I mean? It was all just a big setup. It's just the entire thing a big setup.
That is true, Ellie. As many murderers won't kill animals. Like what is it? Who was that guy who drilled people in their heads and killed them?
He poured the acid in there.
Yeah.
Who was it?
Dahmer.
Dahmer? Yep.
Yeah, Dahmer. He didn't like killing animals.
Wow.
Yeah, he didn't like that whole thing with the eel with the oil. That was all made up. That wasn't even true. He didn't like killing animals, so that's a good point. You know, killers sometimes don't like killing animals, but they'll kill people.
Culberger didn't kill the dog, right? He put it in the room.
Yeah, no, well, he's alleged. he's still got his trial.
Allegedly.
And then to top everything off, did you guys see today? Yeah, about shit. They had OJ Simpson on giving advice and his thoughts on what he thought about Alec Murdoch. Did you guys see that?
Yes,
I
yes.
did not see
Dude,
that.
Tim, Twitter said, he goes, Twitter's been asking, people on Twitter have been asking me, what do I think about this case and blah, blah, blah. And he's like, I haven't watched much of it, but I've watched a lot of it. It was like, what? You didn't watch much of it, but you watched a lot of it? It was so weird. Nobody asked him but trolls. You know what I mean? About the case. Nobody really wanted to know. It was
I was like, is this seriously happening right now? Are we really listening to OJ Simpson?
I remember watching his trial when I was a kid. Oh my god! And then he wrote that book, "If I Did It," and then if was red or something, and I was like, why or I did it, was in the book.
Yeah, like the balls on him.
Yeah, people really, I mean, like he got lit. I mean, I thought he was still in jail for that whole robbery thing still. I guess he's out.
I didn't even know he was out until that video popped up today, because that was my first thought isn't he in prison? And then my second thought is, what the hell is he on here talking?
Listen,
he's been up for a couple years now, and they gave him 9 to 30 years, I believe, for stealing back his own memorabilia.
Yeah.
Well, he alleges he stole back his own memorabilia. We don't know if he actually got money and stuff like that.
Well, no, they ended up coming after he got arrested, and he still didn't get out for it. It was admitted that it was his memorabilia, but because he went in the house with a security guard and threatened him and did all that other stuff, that's why he got arrested. And I think that's why they laid the hammer on him, because he got away with the
murder.
Yep.
Didn't he kind of rough them up a little bit though when he went in to get back his memorabilia?
By the way, we're talking about O.J. Simpson, not Murdoch, right now. Just so anyone
the
knows.
security guard supposedly did.
Yeah. Okay, because I remember something about somebody getting some punches and stuff.
Yeah. Can you tell us, just using my Uber app? Can you tell I was just using my Uber app? No, we can't tell you were just using your Uber app until you told everyone thumb thug.
What? Where did that come from?
I read the chat. So I read the chat while I'm talking to you guys all the time. So I'm always watching the chat, actually.
Oh my goodness.
What does he mean by that though?
I don't know. We're gonna have to find out. You're gonna have to tell us the story, thumb thug.
Bring it.
The background noise is that Ellie's under a bridge. It's raining. She's dealing with trolls. She's
Avery.
Avery. Oh, my bad. Avery's. I talk to Ellie all the time. Avery. Basically, she's dealing with trolls under the bridge, and the rain is coming down. That's what's happening. If you don't start reading all my messages, BTM, I've read them. I've read them.
What just happened?
Hey, Grandma Sherry, what's up?
Grandma.
How you doing, Sherry?
Hey, hi. Can you hear me?
Yeah. Well, we just so when other people are talking though, Avery, if you can mute and unmute.
Oh, I'm actually going to hop down because it's starting to come down heavier, and if I walk inside, I'm going to lose my signal.
All right, cool. Good talking to you, Avery.
All right, but I'll be down in the chat.
Bye.
Bye, y'all.
Avery. Hey.
All right, what's the hot take you're gonna say? We're gonna have to delete this live. Queen's gonna have to delete the live. I don't do nothing. I just jump up. So.
Effing bleepity bleep bleep bleep. I think what really sealed Alex was getting on the stand himself. Casey Anthony didn't, and OJ didn't. But Alec got on the stand himself.
Yep. And that was very stupid.
Yeah, exactly. It didn't do him any favors, but what really sealed it is him getting up there and saying, yeah, I lied this entire time until they found the Snapchat video. I lied.
Yeah, that got me too. That was like, what? Are you serious?
Yeah, exactly.
I lied. I stole. I lied to my family. I lied to my friends. I lied to everyone.
I lied
to
more.
the cops. But believe me, while I'm on this stand, I didn't kill my own.
But you have
exactly.
to. Lying to you, jury.
Right.
Sled's fault.
Thumb Thug says B Tim's about to make me hit the link to vindicate myself. Oh
Uh-oh.
shit.
Uh-oh.
Get him.
Somebody's coming in
fuck.
for B Tim or B Steve.
Oh jeez. Grandma Sherry, you gonna
Okay.
defend
Well, I
me?
think he's been. I am.
Oh, good.
You know, I'm yours
Definitely.
through and through.
Grandpa will definitely
Okay,
protect you.
and so here's the thing that people are saying. I mean, I kind of wish Avery was still up here because this case and most cases are built on circumstantial evidence.
Mhm.
Unless you have a video of the actual crime being presented. And circumstantial evidence is, and I'm reading this, is proof of a fact or even a set of facts from which someone could infer the facts in question.
Yeah.
For instance, a suspect in a crime is seen by a witness fleeing the scene on foot after a convenience store robbery. And what I feel like the defense did not do was they did not put enough reasonable doubt in there.
Yeah, like an
Because
alternate theory, like
exactly. I mean, even if they could come up with somebody, or even if they said they were too focused on Alex, which they weren't. They let him back into the house the night of the murder.
oh, they
You
treated
know,
him with
they
like kid gloves. I mean, let's be real. They
well,
treated that guy with kid
and
gloves.
here's my idea of that. I think because of his family history, because he was well known, because he was all buddy with all the law enforcement and all that other stuff, he did just enough of an alibi in order to, you know, if they did look his way, because they always look at the spouse or the boyfriend or whatever, that he would have enough of an alibi that he could skate out of it. But what he didn't realize is that Paul had made that Snapchat video and it's time stamped with his voice on it. And
Yeah, if it
so
wasn't for that, this would have been a different verdict. I really think
exactly. And the prosecution brought forth that the shotgun, you know, had Maggie's DNA on it. Or, yeah, the shotgun had Maggie's DNA on it, on the barrel. You know, it's not like she used it to shoot something. Her blood was there. And he didn't shoot Maggie with the shotgun. But the point being, those facts are consistent with the fact that this thing was at the crime scene. And then when, I don't know if it was Roro, it was one of Paul's friends that said that when they got the red dot scope or the lighting thing for the blackout, they were shooting at that property across the street, the shooting shed, which is why the jury went across the street, was to look at the shooting shed. They retrieved shells and casings from that area and said it's consistent with the blackout that had been replaced.
Yep, blackout 300s.
So
Yep.
exactly. And so then when they just tore his alibi apart and they said the world's shortest nap, you know, 289 steps in 4 minutes, what were you doing? You know, all that kind of stuff. That's enough to look at these facts that they were presented and say, yeah, he's guilty. Because he was there minutes before, you know, the time of death. And yes,
Yeah, unless you
the
prove
And
coroner
didn't hear
photo-
gunshots, guys. Didn't hear any gunshots.
Yeah, unless you prove they're
Exactly.
like you prove another theory, like, oh, someone else was on the property. Oh, this is the guy who I was enemies with. This is why, you know, he might have done it. But instead, he just basically lied. He says, yeah, I lied to the cops. I stole. I'm a piece of shit. And kind of just, that's the thing. I mean, would a jury still convict him if let's say he had a clean record and he had no financial issues and he was just clean? Maybe
Probably.
not. I don't know.
No, I'm thinking they would, with that circumstantial evidence just right there, that he was there 5 or 10 minutes before they died. He was supposedly taking a nap, according to his story. You know, he drove the golf cart back. He admitted he was in the golf cart. You know, he had all those steps. And no, I think they would have. But the thing that people are looking at is like the coroner didn't do a rectal body temp, so they don't know
Okay.
what time they died. You know, he put his hand in their armpit. You know, fine. It's good old boy, you know, and you don't have to prove motive.
Yeah.
But my thing, and what bothers me, is because I lived through this. I moved to Virginia, and when I moved here, I went into culture shock because I came from California. You know, where you say hi to your neighbors and you might give them fruitcake at Christmas. But here, like, I went into the IG and everybody knew me already. They knew how many kids I had. They knew where we were living. They knew who owned the place. And then my husband at the time was working for like an Alex Murdoch. He wasn't a lawyer, but he owned half of the buildings in downtown, and he owned the cable company and all this other stuff. And the stuff that I saw, because of their family name and because of his money that they got away with, I really think that Alex didn't think that he was even going to be considered as a such. You know,
Yep.
which is why one of the first things out of his mouth is, when the officer arrived, the boat accident. You know, that he was already trying to throw reasonable doubt on something. It was a boat accident. We didn't take it seriously. Blah blah.
Had to figure it out. Yep.
Exactly. And another thing I wanted to bring up is the fact that Alex did own part of the funeral home. And it wouldn't be anything to pay off somebody, to pay off that funeral director or whatever. Hey, you know, this is Paul's blackout and he loved it so much. Can you bury it with him? And, you know, this is handsome shotgun. And, you know, can you bury that with him? Is what I think. You know, why there was because SLED didn't actually do a search until the next day of the house, and they weren't really looking at Alex. So if they saw the blackout and the shotgun in the gun room, you know, they could have taken everything, but they didn't. And there's video in the Netflix series of John Marvin and Buster moving guns out of the
I
house.
saw that. That was that guy that did the footage, like the drone footage and stuff. Have you
Drone
seen
footage.
him? Yeah. He reported on this, like, he lives locally and he reported on all of this like a while ago. Yeah, he's an interesting, I forgot his name. Somebody posted about it, I remember. Yeah, he was in the
I
Netflix
just
documentary.
remember before I saw the Netflix thing, I saw something in my recommendations that I was in the Netflix. So I actually watched his little video about the drone footage that he took, you know. And so there's just a lot of really sketch things that weren't even brought into trial because Alec wasn't charged, wasn't indicted with anything until after they got Paul's phone unlocked and downloaded. You know, he was walking around scot-free. He was going to barbecues and golf tournaments and all this other stuff, and he thought he got away with it. And the second thing, I'm sorry, I'm just talking a lot here, but the second thing is, I've been on the defense side as far as what Alec did for a living, suing insurance companies. So I work for an insurance company, and I have for 20 years. And every insurance company has something called a special investigations unit. It's usually retired military and law enforcement people that when there's a suspicion of insurance fraud, you refer things over to the Special Investigations Unit, the SIU. And I've done some referrals where they actually got convictions on an accident ring, where this one company, it was like a Uber sort of thing, Joe's Uber type of deal. but they used all of their cars, and they were in accident after accident after accident. They were paying their passengers to say they were in the car, or they would, tell passengers, hey, we're going to get in this accident, you're going to get hurt, and then, we're going to sue the insurance, and you can get money out of this. So I actually got convictions out of it. And the reason I bring that up is because part of my job was to notice these patterns. If there's something sus about something, or like Alec, when he couldn't think of what he did in those 4 minutes, or he couldn't remember what they said at dinner, or what they talked about down by the kennels. All those things are sus. And I think Waters did a really good job bringing up the fact that he has these crystal clear details about his phone being in the console, but he doesn't remember what they talked about at dinner. And then Alex said, "Oh, we talked about Paul's feet; they're swelling because of blood pressure."
Exactly.
So Alec was basically pivoting and running with everything he could to try to cover up what they were bringing in front of him, and he hadn't really thought this all the way through, because I don't think he thought he would ever be on trial for offing his wife and son.
There's so many holes in his story. It's ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous. So that's, I think, all the jury really needed was all these holes and the lies and taking it back, that he wasn't at the kennels. He was at the kennels. You know what I mean? You don't lie about something like that if you're innocent. You have no reason to.
Well, I was kind of iffy. I was thinking maybe he did, or maybe he just hired somebody and he'll turn them in, or something along that line. But when in the closing statements, when Waters was saying they matched the shell casings that are consistent with the missing blackout and that they found in Maggie, and that the world's shortest nap, even though he was taking 289 steps in 4 minutes.
Yeah, like a
he
7
had a
minute or
20-second.
9 minute nap or something. Like he didn't really have time to nap.
Exactly.
Yeah. And he said
Exactly.
it originally was an
World's shortest nap.
hour nap. But then
Yeah,
when
you're
you
gonna
found
tell me
out
a
that they
7,
had
8
him
hour
at the
nap.
kennels.
You're not gonna hear
Yeah.
gunshots. You know what I mean? Like you've been asleep for 6, 7, 8 minutes, and you're not gonna hear gunshots. Sorry.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, he might have heard something and thought, oh, well, Paul found a hog, or, whatever they call them out there.
I feel
Pig.
like naps, 15 minutes, 20 minutes are like the minimum. I don't think I've ever heard like a 5 minute, 10-minute nap. I don't think that it's not a nap.
Exactly.
It's like closing
And
your eyes for a few minutes or something. Yeah. I don't know.
So if you go back to circumstantial evidence, then there's enough things that point to him being at the scene, having enough time to get back to the house, going over to his mom's as an alibi. Who knows what he did? He may have thrown his bloody clothes away, or put them in the smoker and burned them, or who knows? I don't think we'll ever know these
He had time
details.
to go back there and mess with it later because they didn't search it, So there you go, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then they found the blue tarp poncho rain
Yeah.
jacket.
Or there's both, I
But
think. Yeah.
and I'd really be interested in digging deeper into his stuff, because he owned the islands. He had an airplane and a landing strip on Moselle. Paul told his friends, hey, what do they bring in the plane? And he said drugs, hookers, and everything, right?
I forgot about
There's
that.
a lot of things over there. Yeah, and there's a lot of things surrounding him, and probably his family legacy. Like they think his great grandfather, the first Randolph, wasn't in a train wreck, that he
I
actually
heard about
committed
that.
suicide.
Yeah. Isn't that
Oops, sorry.
fascinating, that
I
whole
said-
thing?
I
Yeah.
said
It's
the S
okay.
word.
It's all right.
Yeah.
They didn't hear you.
But okay.
That he
But
made eye
in
contact with the conductor or something, but then he
Yeah,
was
yeah,
on the
yeah.
track. Yeah, that was weird. Like that was like
Yes.
the great grandfather. Yeah. And so that was like where shame might have started. I don't know. from back then. That's what
Exactly,
they were
because
talking about, Shane. Hmm.
going back to the small town thing of people with power and money and influence, that they cover over a lot of stuff. You know, who knows how many
Imagine,
times Paul was pulled over for DUI.
imagine what they've
You
gotten
know,
away with. You know what I mean? The stuff that they've already gotten away with.
Exactly. And one of the things I wanted to say, because he was a plaintiff lawyer for injury cases, they're dirty as heck.
Oh yeah,
Lady Justice Warrior even said it. You know,
I
so
mean,
many
yeah, it's
so many attorneys are so sketch. And again, back to my job. One of our special investigation unit cases was a group of lawyers that had actually partnered with doctors and physical therapy places in Delaware. And the doctors were overprescribing opiates, and the physical therapy places were billing for things that people didn't need to go through, or they didn't even show up for. And they do that. It basically, what they do is they pile on bills, and then once the settlement goes, then obviously they pay out the doctor and they pay off the physical therapist, and the lawyer gets his cut, but at a very small fraction of what's going on. And the second thing that goes along with that is a lot of states now have laws for insurance companies that if you make a settlement with a lawyer, you have to send the client, the actual plaintiff, a letter saying, hey, we mailed a check for $25,000 to your lawyer, Alec Murdaugh, at this address, so that they know how much they're getting, because there are so many lawyers
that
that
would
do
have
that
helped.
scuzzy
Yeah.
thing.
Right? That would help
Yeah.
most of his clients if they just got that simple letter. You would think they would do that, but they don't. That's crazy, you know?
No, not every state requires that. Some insurance companies do it anyway, which is kind of cool. But and I had a thought, but it just rabbited off. The settlement letters. I'm sorry, I have to take notes before I come up because I get so nervous.
Oh, nothing to be nervous about.
You're killing it, Grandma.
I mean, I know you're not right. I know you're right next to a koala. That's a dangerous animal. I mean, like.
She's a bunny, so we're friends. Bunnies and koalas
No,
get
I've seen
along.
koalas attack bunnies. They're not good.
Not in this world. Not in my world.
And the people he preyed on in the cases, like his cases and whatnot that he took, they were people that like weren't the smartest of, you know what I mean? It's just a fact.
Well, I mean, they relied.
Well,
they
and the
relied
thing
on
is that
expertise
most
of their
people,
Yeah, Tim, yeah.
You go, Sherry.
most people who get into like a major truck accident or something along that line, they've never been hurt before.
Yeah,
You
that's
know,
what I'm
they've
saying.
never been rear-ended to the point where their back is broken and they're now a quadriplegic. You know, they don't know the law. They don't know what's going on. Most people don't even know how their insurance works. You know, they don't know if they have to pay a deductible if they're at fault, or, you know, how they get a rental car, or whether they even have it on their policy. And so plaintiff lawyers understand this and they take advantage of it. So the thing about the Mallory Beach thing, where Tinsley was asking for like 30 or 40 million dollars, that's just a scheme. That's a thing that plaintiff attorneys do, because if they're asking for $30,000 or $40,000 and they're in a
They'll give you 10,
jurisdiction
right?
that's more than likely, well, if they're in a jurisdiction that more than likely favors the defendant, the person that was injured. Now, there are some jurisdictions that favor the insurance companies. Those are called conservative. The other ones are called liberal venues. But depending upon the venue, the attorney is looking, say, like, if Nick was in an accident and I'm his insurance company and Nick was at fault and somebody got hurt, not quadriplegic because Nick isn't that bad of a driver, but somebody got hurt and they got an attorney, and the attorney sends a demand letter and it says, I want $30 million for this. And here's the reason: we have this much in medicals, and he's not going to be able to work, so we've got lost wages and loss of consortium because, you know, he can't hang out and play tennis with his wife, and they don't have sex anymore. That sort of thing. They know that me insurance company has $500,000, and that to avoid the $50, $60, $100,000 worth of court costs, that sometimes it's just a business decision to go, here's the 500,000. Then once the attorney gets that, it's his duty to tell the plaintiff, the injured person, hey, I got 500,000. But what Alec was doing was he was getting the 500,000 and telling them, oh, we only got 150,000 or something along that line. And then, you know, we'll pay $50,000 for your outstanding medical bills. And then I take my 40% and, you know, here's $12,500 for you, or whatever that worked out, you know?
Then you have the medical costs and everything.
Exactly.
The speaker on the panel, yeah, this is Grandma Sherry, by the way.
And don't a lot of lawyers they'll overshoot, like say 30 million, so they try to get a
Yeah, it's like negotiation. Like they know they're not going to get
Yeah.
30 million, and the other side knows that, so they'll say, okay, they'll be like, okay, we'll give you 5 million when they know the case is
Exactly.
worth 15, and they negotiate.
Well,
That's just how everything goes. And I'm
it
sure
depends on the asset. Because
yeah, also, the claim rep probably just like says, I want to settle for this amount, and they probably tell the lawyer like, we don't settle, or we will settle for this amount, or some shit like that. Usually with those things.
Exactly. You get a demand letter from an attorney, got all the medical records and bills, and it has, nasty pictures of the damage of the car, and it has pictures of the wounds that the person got in the accident.
Yeah, you go for
all
like
the
loss
graphic
of,
things.
yeah, you go for like loss of work, if they were out of work, how long they were out of work, damage, out of pocket costs for medical costs like that. Then you go into like other things.
Exactly. Everything. I get everything down to, they went down to CVS and bought an ACE bandage. So we get all of that stuff in a demand package. And then we look at that, and there's no like formula, because attorneys will tell you right off, well, if you have $50,000 in bills, then it's automatically 3 times that amount for your pain and suffering.
Yeah,
It's
also you
called
might have
general
Medicare.
damages.
Yeah, you also might have a Medicare or Medicaid lien if the person's on any of those things. Might have, it's as simple as that.
It's an insurance
Oh my
policy
God,
that
yeah.
will get you more. Yeah.
Yeah, and then you deal with all
And
that stuff.
that's what Alec was looking at, like with Gloria Satterfield. He just bought that commercial insurance policy. He did that because they have higher limits. Personal insurance policy on Moselle, he may have had like $1 million in liability. He could put an umbrella on top of that for $3 to $10 million. But what he decided to do is get a commercial insurance policy. And, they paid out the $4.3 million. The thing is that a plaintiff attorney is going to look for every place that they can get money.
Yeah, like
So
the
if there was a
shotgun.
homeowner's insurance, so if the plaintiff attorney looks at the homeowner's insurance, and then they go for an umbrella, and then they look to see if there's anybody else that might be involved, which is why Buster and Alec and Maggie were all named in Paul's boating accident lawsuit. Because if anybody else had anything to do with this, like if Alec could be found that he had negligent entrustment of allowing Paul to drive that boat when he knows
Uninsured.
that Paul drinks. What?
And the boat was
Sorry.
didn't have insurance, right? The boat didn't have insurance on it, I
lost
believe,
you.
right? The boat didn't have insurance on it, I believe.
Oh, I'm sure
something
the
like
boat
that.
had insurance on it. Yeah,
It did have insurance on it.
I'm sure it did.
I remember them saying something about
Yeah,
that.
because Mallory's family got a payment right away. But the thing was, the plaintiff attorney was going for more money. And when you own a home or you have renter's insurance, there's a portion on there called liability. So if you do something wrong, then that's actually going to kick in. And you need to get the big thing. It's called the policy form. It has all the wording that nobody ever reads. It's usually like, depending on the policy, 30 to 60 pages long. but the liability portion will, number one, the insurance company has to defend you if a lawsuit is brought, but it also covers you for things like defamation, slander. If somebody sues you because you brought potato salad to the church potluck and they got food poisoning from it, you know, somebody falls on your property like Gloria Satterfield fell, that's what the liability portion of it covers. And so what they were trying to do with the boat accident is not only say, okay, boat insurance, but I'm going to go after their personal liability. And, you know, Alex,
Yeah, they're like their
drank
house,
and shit.
like their housing insurance and stuff like that.
Exactly. And so when all of that exhausts, because insurance will only pay how much you have on your policy. If you have $10,000 in liability, the insurance company goes, here's the $10,000, we wash our hands. Their duty to defend you is over, and their duty to try to pay anything else is gone, unless they did something wrong, and that's a big thing. And so that's why the plaintiff's attorney... No, go ahead.
Was that boat in Alex's name, or was it in Paul's name? I'm trying to remember here.
To my understanding, Ellie, help me here. It was in Alex's name.
Yeah, but I think
And he was driving, and Paul was driving it.
Yeah, maybe he didn't have like he wasn't insured to
Yeah.
drive it, Paul.
Which is
Yeah,
Yes,
because you're too
that's
young.
what happened.
well,
Yes.
I don't know, Paul, because on a boat policy, just like on your car policy, if Mr. and Mrs. B. Tim are on the policy, and they both, I know B. Tim doesn't drive and he's not married. This is just an example. Pulled out of my head. But B. Tim has the insurance policy in his name, and they insure the car, and Mrs. B. Tim is listed at Avery. Hey,
I came back up. I had questions for you, Grandma Sherry. I'm out of the rain though. But
okay.
I was listening to you talk about this insurance stuff. So
yeah.
Okay, this is what I'm wondering. So okay, like 3 weeks ago, I was in a car accident, first car accident ever, and I was rear-ended by a cop. I was sitting at a stoplight, and his brakes failed, and I was rear-ended by him, and it pushed me into the vehicle in front of me. Well, he was off duty. My attorney said something to me on the phone the other day about.
Whoa. I'm trying.
Yeah.
Do not say what your attorney has told you. That's a attorney-client privilege, and you might fuck yourself over if you start talking about what your attorney told you. Please don't.
No, I'm not going to say anything that's going to mess me.
If you have an open case, just don't do that. You're gonna fuck yourself over on a civil lawsuit. I'm telling you now.
Oh, okay. No, I'm fine, B. Tim. I promise you.
Okay.
But anyhow, so my attorney was telling me like they have to look into what the other person's coverage is, right, for the personal injury. So when Alex Murdoch is stealing money from these clients, was he telling the clients that the personal injury was less?
Yes.
And then he was taking the difference?
Yes.
No. He was saying it was less, and then he
more
was
than
taking his
likely
client fee. Yeah, he was. I'm sorry.
So if the client, no, that's okay. So if the injured person, the client, his client, the insurance company of the at-fault party actually paid like $100,000. What Alec was doing is he was telling them they didn't get the $100,000 that they asked for, you know, but he did accept $50,000. Obviously, these are in the millions.
Okay.
So
That's
I
what
don't
I
want to
was
math.
trying to.
So what
And
Alec was
and
doing in his, what Alec was doing in his paperwork, his settlement paperwork that the plaintiffs have to sign, is he was saying, okay, this is how much we got, and this is how much, you know, my fees are, and blah, 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 and this is the check that's coming to you. And the thing is with Alec, he set up that Forge account, and insurance companies, we work with settlement companies all the time because there are There are minors that get injured, and a portion of their settlement will go into a fund, like for their college, and they can draw on it when they're 18 or 21 or however the contract is set up.
Yep.
Or some people who get huge settlements will take part of it up front, and then they'll invest the rest of it in the settlement company.
Yeah,
And we
wasn't he
have
taking out?
lots of settlement companies.
Yeah, wasn't he taking a loan from one of his clients, one of those trusts that you were talking about?
Yes,
And then that person was coming of
exactly.
age, and basically there was no money. He had to figure out how to put the money back into that account. He was doing that also.
Exactly.
So that
Yeah,
makes
yeah.
more sense. Okay, because I was trying to understand this whole time, like how he was doing this, because just based on like my recent experience, I'm like, well, these people would know, right, what the amount is. So he was essentially lying to the
No, they don't.
client, and
Yeah.
because they weren't
No, the
asking for
plaintiffs,
proof, right?
They all trusted him.
right.
I
Lying,
see.
saying different
By,
numbers.
by the way,
Depending on the
someone.
state.
Oh, I
Go
was
ahead.
gonna say, like Ellie dropped an article. It says federal judge says multi-million-dollar Mueller Dark's insurance policy doesn't cover boat crash that killed Mallory Beach. That's the
Oh,
title.
okay.
And it says a federal judge last week ruled in that a Pennsylvania-based insurance company is not on the hook for any potential liability generated by the suspended South Carolina attorney Richard Alex Murdoch or his son Richard Alex Buster in connection with the death of 18 in 2019 boating accident. Quote, he expected one thing, end quote, the judge said while referring to Murdoch's purchase of the insurance. Quote, he received something else, the quote. And quote, the judge said that the problem for the Murdochs and not a problem the courts can fix. The insurance case is tightly connected to an underlying lawsuit concerning the death of Mallory Beach, 19, according to multiple civil lawsuits. Beach died when Alex's son, Buster's brother, Paul Murdoch brought alcohol. Okay, we know that obviously. I'm trying to see. Immediately after the civil litigation was filed, the Philadelphia Indemnity Insurance Company itself filed a declaratory judgment action in U.S. District
Yes.
Court for the District
Mhm.
South Carolina declaratory judgment actions, are legal maneuvers in which ask the judges to decide controversies that are necessary to settle before a bigger picture dispute on the merits occurs. In the case, the bigger picture controversy is whether and to what degree the various Murdochs are liable for the injury suffered by Beach. The smaller yet financially critical question is whether Murdoch insurance policy with Philadelphia Indemnity Insurance will pay for any of those damages and for any associated defense for Murdoch's family. The named defendant in the insurance company action were Alex Murdoch, Buster Murdoch, and Renee S. Beach, Mallory Beach's mother. At issue were $3 million in commercial liability insurance policy and a $5 million umbrella protection policy. Murdoch tried to unsuccessfully argue covered any potential damages in the underlying Beach lawsuit. A federal judge, Sherry Linden, explained in September 21 decision that the insurance company raised 5 arguments as to why it should not pay for the damages to pay the defend the Murdochs. 1. The Murdoch defendants are not insured under the policy. 2. The policies only provide coverage for bodily injury that arises out of a private hunting operations. 3. The underlying lawsuit does not allege an occurrence. 4. The watercraft exclusion applies to exclude coverage. And 5. Because there is no coverage, it has no duty to defend indemnity. The insurance policy explicitly applied to an alleged business which provided the service of guides and outfitters. Therefore, Judge Ludon agreed with the insurance company that the underlying allegation of drunken boating didn't qualify as insured activity, nor did Buster Murdoch meet the definition of being insured as party in the first place.
Oh.
He wasn't
Right. Let me
working for his,
translate that for
yeah,
you.
and he wasn't working for his father. So I mean, you can translate, yeah.
Right. Okay, I can translate that for you. So the boat itself sounds like it didn't have insurance, or if it did, it just paid its limit. Okay.
Yeah.
What they did is they went after the Moselle property. In all properties, because you have to have separate auto insurance and you have to have separate boat insurance and RV insurance and motorcycle insurance. So what they did is they went after Moselle. So the Philadelphia Indemnity Company said no. And a declaratory judgment is something that we do quite a bit because there are exclusions in your policy. And one of those on a homeowner policy and the umbrella policy is that they don't cover watercraft, period. You have to have a boat policy for that. So that's what that's speaking to, is that the plaintiff's attorney went after Moselle, because if you read it again, it wasn't a hunting thing.
And also, he was drinking on the
and they
boat,
don't
so
cover
that
water.
the insurance, right, Grandma? That he was drinking on the boat, so that the insurance won't cover that because he's drinking on the boat.
No, they do. They do. Insurance
Even if
covers
he's drinking
stupidity.
on the boat.
Yes.
Wow.
Yes, we cover drunk drivers all the time. But the thing is that that goes to more the punitive damages or the pain and suffering. Well, he was drunk. He was 3 times the legal limit. And so that kind of ups the pain and suffering portion of it.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, so insurance covers stupidity all the time.
Yeah, most accidents are caused by stupidity, so that would be quite.
So that's super interesting to me. So a lot of Alex cases must have been like big accident cases.
Yes, like the one was like
Yeah,
worth
the UPS. Like UPS and I've worked for insurance companies that cover major commercial fleets that are like nationwide.
And what Lady Justice was basically stating that in his in the state he's in, where the reason why this multi-million-dollar law firm is there is basically they can like bring a lawsuit in any they could just basically pick an area to bring the lawsuit for like a law for something, so they can kind of pick a jury if they want. That would be probably
Right.
very nice.
When I was talking to you about the venues, whether they're conservative or liberal, whether they're going to go for the defendant or the plaintiff.
Yeah.
That's what she was talking about. That in South Carolina, if they find if an accident happened in a jurisdiction that is plaintiff friendly, then they can try to move it. They can try to move the venue and file in a different jurisdiction.
Wait a minute.
Or a
Wait a
venue.
minute. Wait a minute. We got a dog growling. Ellie, what's going on?
I'm muted.
Oh, okay, so I heard a dog growling. I think we were being attacked. I think we were just, or Boston is
Getting in trouble for no reason.
Nope, I'm always muted when I'm talking.
I was muted.
Quiet.
Oh, that was you. You had a dog. Okay, it's great.
I'm sorry. That was a spirit box.
Oh, okay. I thought for one moment someone was either growling or snoring. I was like, "What's going on?"
Oh, that was Willow.
Yeah.
That was.
I was like, "Oh, is that Queen? You're okay? Are you being attacked by a dog?"
But one last thing, and I'll jump down. And I'm sorry to take so long, but
well, I'm going to jump down too, Miss Sherry. I wanted to thank you though for answering my questions before my phone died.
No problem. Not giving legal advice, just talking about
No.
the way insurance works, not specific
It just
cases.
dawned on me the other day when I was listening to the Murdoch trial. Yeah, it just dawned on me the other day when I was listening to the trial. And then when my attorney had said that, and I thought, he must not have been telling his clients whatever that amount was. And then I was listening to you and I thought, I'm going to come up and ask her to see if I'm right. But I appreciate you.
Before you go, here's the thing that's going to blow your mind. Okay, I was talking about settlement companies. There are many throughout the United States, and insurance companies typically have one that they work with, and they have a representative. Like they said, oh, so and so was our point of contact. I don't remember his name for Forge. What was it? Its official name? Forge Settlements or Forge Incorporated, whatever. So Alec knew that because insurance companies used to cut a check to just the settlement company. This is for XYZ.
That's how he was getting the check.
They were cutting it right to him. Yes, they were cutting it right to him.
Okay, yeah, that was the other thing I was wondering too, because I was like thinking, like with my situation, surely the check's going to come in my name, right? And I was wondering that too. So he opened that
Ford
as the in between.
Yeah.
And the insurance companies were just cutting a check to Forge Settlement on behalf of XYZ. And if he has power of attorney, he can sign everything for his clients and they don't see a thing. because every insurance company has a release. It's a hold harmless. Basically, this is our settlement with
Whoa.
you. You can't come after us or our insured ever again. And the plaintiff signs it. If he has the power of attorney over that, he can sign it for them. So they don't actually see the amount where it says in the release, it says on, this, whatever, 3rd day of March, 2023, XYZ insurance company is paying $100,000 US dollars to blah, blah plaintiff for the accident on this date. And then it goes into all the legal stuff about, you'll leave this alone, you'll leave our insured alone, this is it, can't come back.
That's some
That's what
serious devilish manipulating he was doing. That
Yes.
sounds exhausting.
Yeah, that's why
Going
when
down forever. Anyway.
That's why when he was
Right.
on the stand and he was like, I lied, I stole from people.
I
I stole. And it kind of did. Willow even agrees. Then basically that did not work
Good
too
job.
well for him.
He took that whole $4 million from the housekeeper's kids and didn't give them a cent of it until, I don't know if they've been paid yet, but what you were just explaining, Grandma, it all went to him. It was wrote to forged. He got it, put in his account, and never gave them anything until he finally reached out to him and whatnot and said, "Oh yeah, we got a little settlement." I think he sent him like $50,000 or something like that out of the $4 million.
Yeah, it was real fucked up.
That's such an exhausting lifestyle, and you have to wonder.
That's why that's why he took all those pills.
Yeah, that's what I was just thinking. It's got to be all those pills, because how could he ever sleep at night?
Well, that's why he took the pills, so he could
Yeah.
sleep anyway.
Wow.
Yeah, that's just crazy. But I'm going to jump down because I'm running out of battery.
Yeah, me too. I appreciate you helping me understand all that.
Yeah,
Grandma
my
Sherry.
pleasure. And I'm going to go take my Xanax now.
All right. Well, we have to check it out. You did great, Grandma Sherry. You're always great.
Yeah,
Oh,
you
yeah.
don't have to
Okay,
say
thanks. Love you guys. Thank you, Queen.
Bye, Grandma.
that.
Oh,
Bye.
one moment, 1 second.
What?
A second.
I know what he's doing.
Oh.
Mm.
You know what he's doing, Nick.
Yep.
What is
He's gonna play a Molly audio. Watch.
Okay.
Yeah, no, I was just stepping away. So anyway, guys.
Oh, okay. I'm
Molly,
jumping down,
Molly.
and I thought of something important. Bye.
Bye.
All
Bye,
right.
Grandma. Yeah, I thought you were gonna put one of those Molly things. You know what I mean?
No. Same old thing. I'm probably gonna skedaddle soon. Queen, I'm gonna skedaddle.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I'm gonna have to skedaddle myself. It's getting
too.
it's getting late. I need
It was always a pleasure talking to you guys. You guys have a great
I've
one.
been on here
You
like
too.
3.5 hours, so I'm tired.
Yeah.
Over
Oh my
3.5.
gosh.
Yeah.
But it was very interesting. You had
Yeah.
legal
It was too.
discussion.
Oh my God, I've just been
We
listening.
had
like,
insurance discussion. We had legal discussion. We even had like
Right. This is a good live. This is a good live.
Yeah, good
Yeah.
education.
Y'all have a good night.
Good night, guys.
everybody.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.